Chapter 1982. The blood jasper spirit ginseng and the Duanmu Qingtian bent down and arranged Su Yi's body in a suitable position. The Duanmu Qingtian whispered, "This kid is badly injured. Let me help him." After a moment of silence, the blood jasper spirit ginseng looked at the Duanmu Qingtian. The pressure that enveloped him was extremely terrifying, but the density of his qi was very thin. "Your cultivation is amazing, but your injuries are too serious. You can't use any more qi. Let me do it." The blood jasper spirit ginseng hardened its heart and removed a few strands of its beard. With a crisp sound, the strands of beard quickly turned into ginseng roots that were filled with spiritual energy. Placed in the palm of his hand, it emitted a unique medicinal fragrance. At a glance, one could tell that it contained a huge amount of qi. Such rich qi of qi. The Duanmu Qingtian and the Golden Fire Beast King were amazed. The ginseng roots contained a huge amount of energy. In terms of quality, it was comparable to a heaven-class elixir. The blood jasper spirit ginseng smiled and melted the ginseng in its hand into a liquid form. The crystal clear and round beads flowed down Su Yi's mouth. "I have been nourished by the qi of qi. When I am thirsty, I will drink the spiritual liquid in this kid's space. Plus, my roots are spiritual medicine. They definitely have the magical effect of bringing the dead back to life." The blood jasper spirit ginseng's eyes were full of pride as it continued to treat Su Yi. When a huge amount of spiritual liquid flowed into Su Yi's body, his pale face quickly became rosy. His weak body was lifted up by the blood jasper spirit ginseng and the Golden Fire Beast King. The Golden Fire Beast King slowly transferred the demon qi of the fire attribute into Su Yi's body. Boom! The qi of the demon realm was huge. Immediately, it turned into a surge of energy in the god of spiritual meridians and flowed into the great void spirit sea. The blood jasper spirit ginseng pushed both of its hands, and the spiritual energy wrapped around Su Yi tightly. In less than an hour, Su Yi's consciousness was restored. Awake, the corners of Duanmu Qingtian's mouth curled up slightly. His gaze landed on Su Yi, who had just woken up. The tearing feeling in his head had not faded. Su Yi's palm pressed against his forehead and gritted his teeth. In front of him was a dark star. After a long while, he could see the scene in front of him. "Kid, master." Su looked up. Su Ian looked in front of him, the space in front of him. He looked at the space, and said happily, "We are back. This is the demon forest?" In the qi of origin ancestor. In the spirit qi. Yes, and in spirit. In you. The Golden Fire Beast King squatted at the side. The fiery demonic aura in its hands did not stop. It nodded and said fearfully, "Yes, master." Fortunately, Grandpa Ginseng successfully passed the heavenly tribulation and blocked the most serious lightning strike for you. Otherwise, we would not have been able to come to the sky barbarian continent. He struggled to stand up, but his legs gave way and he fell down again. He was also frightened. His lips were pale as he looked at the blood jasper spirit ginseng. "Thank you, Grandpa Ginseng. Congratulations on becoming a demon emperor." Spirit-type demon emperors. Grass-type demon beasts were not the most talented among the beasts. Once they became demon emperors, they would be famous and have shocking achievements. Rest well. Everything else is for later. Now that we are finally back, there are still many things for you to do. Don't take any more risks. The blood jasper spirit ginseng's eyes were serious. Boom! Duanmu Qingtian, who had been quietly listening, suddenly shook his arm. A golden, throbbing soul pressure whizzed out and destroyed 2 towering trees in the southwest direction. "Who is it? Come out," the Duanmu Qingtian said sternly. His voice was like thunder. Su Yi, the Duanmu Qingtian, and the blood jasper spirit ginseng raised their eyebrows. Their expressions immediately turned serious. Ayo. 2 cautious people slowly walked out from the dense forest. Their faces were full of fear, and their eyes were wide open. Just the pressure from the Duanmu Qingtian and the Golden Fire Beast King was enough to make them prostrate on the ground. Their hearts and souls were about to shatter. Zhongdan, Sun Hao. Su Yi narrowed his eyes. When he saw their faces, he still could not believe it. Sect Master. The two were actually Zhongdan and Sun Hao, who had gone to Su Yi's Wang sect to join Shadow Hall. When they saw Su Yi, they ran to Su Yi's side. Their eyes were red and tears were flowing. Sect Master, we finally found you. Zhongdan and Sun Hao cried as they hugged each other. It was as if they had found a long-lost relative. The Duanmu Qingtian, the Blood Jasper Spirit Ginseng, and the Golden Fire Beast King looked at each other in confusion. Did these two have some kind of relationship with Su Yi? Why are you here? What the hell is going on? Sun Hao wiped his tears and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His eyes were still filled with joy as he spoke. The Shadow Hall disciples all over the 6 continents have been searching for you for 4 whole months. Lord Merciless West specially ordered this lowly one to search for Sect Master in the barbarian demon forest. I didn't expect Sect Master to be here. Sect Master, everyone in the Bawang sect is looking forward to your return. What? Su Yi shouted. His eyes shone brightly as his soul pressure shot out, scaring Zhongdan and Sun Hao. It's been 4 months. Isn't it only 2 months? Su Yi immediately became nervous. Too many things could have happened in 4 months. What exactly happened in the Tian barbarian continent? The space-time laws of each martial region are different. This is completely possible. The Duanmu Qingtian's eyes narrowed. He had only been wandering outside for a dozen years. It had been a few decades since he returned to the Tian barbarian continent. Enduring the pain in his heart, Su Yi stood up. A chill surged out as he said in a deep voice, "Tell me, what happened in the Bawang sect? The 9 Stars Valley, the Blood Sun sect, and Hong Qianlong have joined forces. Also, the sects that pretended to pledge their allegiance have all attacked the Bawang sect when they heard that Sect Master's whereabouts were unknown. Especially in the past 2 months, the cities under the Bawang sect have been troubled by the small sects." Zhongdan's face was solemn as his eyes were bloodshot. Sun Hao added, "The Blood Sun sect and the 9 Stars Valley are jackals of the same tribe. I heard that they have a big force behind them, which is why they are so fearless. Although they haven't made any big moves, they have commanded the small sects under them to investigate the situation every once in a while. They are afraid that Lord Sect Master will return. Fortunately, the Bawang sect has always been guarded by Lord Merciless West, so it's not a big problem." Killing intent surged in Su Yi's eyes as he clenched his fists and shouted, "A bunch of ants. I think they don't want to live anymore. Chen Yao, Bai Zun, Hong Qianlong. If I don't kill you, I, Su Yi, am not human." He clenched his teeth as a terrifying origin ancestor aura surged out like a volcanic eruption. Boiling lava flowed out of his pores. The aura was like a mountain. Zhongdan and Sun Hao immediately prostrated themselves on the ground. Su Yi sized them up as if they were hiding something. "Is there something you haven't said?" Sun Hao and Zhongdan lay on the ground with their hair standing on end. Their backs were covered in cold sweat as they trembled. "You even dare to hide it from me? Tell me." Su Yi's anger surged. His eyes were like lightning as he locked onto the two of them. Zhongdan immediately laid his head on the ground and closed his eyes tightly as he said, "Today, I heard from the people in Barbarian City that the Sacred Mountain Tournament is taking place. Also, it's the wedding day of the 9th Holy Maiden. Everyone in Zhongzhou is going. It's very lively." Chapter 1983. Su Yi's robes fluttered despite the lack of wind as the fire god's aura surged around him. Falling in love under the moon, the mischievous kiss they shared on the streets when they were young suddenly surfaced in Su Yi's mind. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Su Yi's hands trembled. He refused to believe that Lu Ruoxi would choose Yuqi Changfeng or Xiahong House. Su Yi knew what she was thinking. A voice filled with vicissitudes of life sounded in her mind. For months have passed. Even if you have an oath with the Yun family, it has been more than a month. It is highly possible that the Sacred Mountain thinks that you have died. Chi Fei Hong's words silenced Su Yi as a cold light flashed in his eyes. Since that is the case, I will personally go to the sacred mountain to take a look. No one can take away what belongs to me. Whether it is Yuchi Changfeng or Xiahong House, I will make them pay the price. During the Tianfeng ranking tournament, Lu Ruoxi had fallen in love with him, breaking the hearts of all the young martial artists in the Tianyin continent. Everyone knew that Lu Ruoxi was Su Yi's woman. She was obviously challenging him. A dragon had a reverse scale, and those who touched it would die. What do you think? Duanmu Qingtian frowned as a cold light flashed in his eyes. The sacred mountain was also the one who had hunted him down back then. The Sky Dragon sect and the sacred mountain. Duanmu Qingtian would take revenge on them one by one. There is no time, and I can't return to the Chaos region. I will go to the sacred mountain first. Su Yi hurriedly formed hand seals as the powerful aura of the Origin Supreme technique circulated. His divine ultimate spiritual meridians shone brightly. Duanmu Qingtian frowned slightly. Although Su Yi was already at the third level of the Origin Zone stage, he was still too insignificant when compared to a colossus like the sacred mountain. Brat, I'm going back to the Command Heavenly Palace. The Command Heavenly Palace is connected to the Sacred Mountains formation. We can reach there directly. Su Yi's eyes lit up. He looked at the Duanmu Qingtian and thought about how happy the Duanmu Xiaoman would be if she knew that Qingtian had returned. However, he didn't have the chance to see such a scene. He immediately said, "All right, Grandmaster, tell Xiaoman that I'm going to the Holy Mountain first." Then, Su Yi looked at the Blood Jade Spirit Ginseng. The Blood Jade Spirit Ginseng rolled its eyes, put its hands on its waist, and said, "Boy, don't look at me like that. I've heard of the Sacred Mountain. I've already plucked a lot of my ginseng roots for you. In this kind of battle, a spiritual medicine type demon emperor like me can't help at all." As soon as it finished speaking, the Blood Jade Ginseng turned around and stopped looking at Su Yi, and it gazed towards the distant barbaric demon forest before pouting and muttering to itself. "I've been in your space for almost 2 years. There are still some old opponents in the barbaric demon forest that I haven't dealt with yet. Now that I've reached the Demon Emperor realm, I have to find them." Su Yi's pale face flashed a trace of cunning. He nodded. The Blood Jade Spirit Ginseng's words were indeed reasonable. He dragged his tired body to the Blood Jade Spirit Ginseng's side and looked down at its intertwined whiskers that were like dragons. "Grandmaster Ginseng, you can go if you want. Anyway, you could go back to the Bawang sect to report. But you have to pay the rent for these 2 years, right?" He stretched out his hand and smiled. The Blood Jade Spirit Ginseng's face immediately changed, and it shouted angrily, "Boy, I saved your life. You also said that this is my luck. It's your luck that you passed the tribulation, and it's also my luck that I met you. Apart from that, we don't owe each other anything." Su Yi smiled, and his eyebrows curved into crescents. The Blood Jade Spirit Ginseng was so angry that it jumped on the spot. "Profiteer, you're a profiteer." The Blood Jade Spirit Ginseng was heartbroken. Under Su Yi's coercion, it shaved half of its whiskers. Su Yi was only satisfied when he held a hand full of ginseng whiskers. The Golden Flame Beast King also changed into its original form and crawled on the ground. It was a barbaric beast that was dozens of feet long. Its skin was like a wall of copper and iron, and it shone with a metallic luster. It had an intimidating aura. Roar! The beast's roar shook the sky, and the valley trembled. The Golden Flame Beast King's fierce eyes were filled with a scarlet light. Its huge fangs pointed to the sky. Just by getting close to it, one could feel a violent, demonic aura that was like being eaten alive. Its thick limbs moved back and forth on the cracked ground as if the earth was shaking. The demonic aura that came out of its nostrils was like a wild beast storm, tearing the ripples in the entire space apart. The only difference between it and an ordinary 5-legged Golden Flame Beast King was that there were a few faint cloud patterns on its limbs. The Golden Flame Beast King's voice was like thunder as it said, "Master, let me bring you to the Holy Mountain." Demon Domain barbaric beasts were able to soar through the air. Their speed was much faster than flying barbaric beasts. Suyi flipped over and sat on the golden flame Beast King's back. Zhongdan, Sun Hao, go back to the Bawang sect and report that I've returned. Tell Big Brother and the others not to worry. Apart from the heavenly demons and the Overlord Legion, tell them to set off for the Holy Mountain. Boom! The golden flame Beast King's hooves moved and the earth shook. It was as if a thunderbolt had pierced through the 9 heavens. Yes, Zhongdan and Sun Hao's souls were already trembling. The pressure on their souls was so great that they didn't even dare to look up at the sky. When the golden flame Beast King rose into the air, the sky was filled with wind and thunder. The terrifying energy fluctuations were like a bomb explosion, causing ripples in the air. Brat, what is your relationship with my sister? Duanmu Qingtian finally asked the question before Suyi left. He hadn't seen the Duanmu Xiaoman for many years, and all the news came from Suyi. The first time he saw the Duanmu Xiaoman, what should he say? What should he say so that it wouldn't be awkward? After a long silence, Suyi's green robe fluttered without any wind. A domineering aura poured out from between his brows. She's my wife. As soon as Huang Xiaolong's voice fell, a golden light shot out from the distant sky. A huge black shadow as big as a mountain covered the sky, bringing with it wind and thunder as it flew towards the holy mountain. Come back here, Duanmu Qingtian shouted, but Suyi had already disappeared into the void. Puchi, Duanmu Qingtian couldn't help but laugh. He had already guessed this answer, but he didn't expect it to be true. Thinking that his incomparably powerful sister was conquered by a little brat like this, he had a whole new level of respect for this brat in front of him. Letting out a long breath, Duanmu Qingtian restrained his aura. His eyes were as deep as water as he muttered under his breath, "Stinky brat, little bastard, you actually took advantage of me. Fortunately, I didn't lose out." Laughing loudly, the space around him rippled rapidly, and Duanmu Qingtian's figure also disappeared from the void. Only the blood jasper ginseng, Sun Hao, and Zhongdan were left for the barbarian demon forest and the Bawang sect, respectively. Chapter 1984. Sitting on the back of the gold flame beast, which was as wide as a mountain, and overlooking the magnificent scenery, Suyi's brows were tightly knitted, and his face was like iron. The river was clear, and the mountains were towering. In front of the beautiful scenery, Suyi recalled the letter Lu Ruashi gave him. He unconsciously clenched his fists and swallowed the ginseng root in one gulp. Then, a whistling wind blew past. Suyi's eyes darkened. He sat cross-legged and formed a mysterious hand seal with lightning speed. Rays of divine light rushed out from his body. The pain felt like his brain was about to be torn apart. Suyi's expression changed drastically. He closed his eyes with difficulty and began to operate the Origin Supreme technique. Kid, are you really ready to steal the bride? That's the sacred mountain that can even destroy the Leaf family. Are you going alone? The iron soulfish crossed his legs and knocked back and forth on his 20th entrance with his withered palm. Suyi's gaze once again focused on the front, but his mind was still spread out in all directions. With the divine profound spiritual veins and this mysterious space, it's not difficult to take Ruashi back. However, this time there's also the Imperial Palace and the armed forces of the Bawang sect. Even if the sacred mountain isn't completely destroyed, it's still going to peel off a layer of skin. Suyi's eyes instantly became cold and gloomy. The coldness in his eyes shot out again. Suyi no longer spoke and once again immersed himself in healing. His whole body was shrouded in a mystical light and was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. This kid only used forces outside the army to deal with the sacred mountain. Could it be that he has other plans? Qi Feihong's eyes were full of suspicion. Somewhere in the sacred mountain, the peaks were shrouded in resplendent clouds, illusory and ethereal. The layers of mist made it look like a fairyland. The peaks were full of spiritual energy. The exotic flowers and precious herbs were full of immortal energy, making people yearn for it. 2 of the peaks were as tall as 1,000 feet. The middle of the peaks looked as if it had been split open by a heavenly axe. The glistening yellow mountain scenery was set off, and the magnificent sacred martial hall was dormant in the middle of the two peaks. From afar, it looked just like a splendid golden screen. The sacred martial hall was the most mysterious and solemn place for practicing martial arts in the Holy Mountain. It was also the burial ground of the holy emperors and holy sages. Only direct disciples and future mainstays of the Holy Mountain were allowed to enter. It was rumored that there were 36 vitality stone veins under the sacred martial hall, which were like palms supporting the peaks of the sacred mountain. Therefore, this place was filled with rich world energy all year round, and when a cultivator was immersed in this place, they would feel an indescribable sense of joy and comfort, allowing them to cultivate with twice the result with half the effort. It was not inferior to those magical secret realms or dangerous places in the world. Today, the sacred martial hall was bustling with people. All the large, influential sects and aristocratic forces of the central province had gathered here. The sacred martial grand competition should have been held in the second year of the Holy Emperor's death, but the sacred master had delayed it for more than 20 years. As one of the top forces of the central province, they had been keeping a low profile in recent years. It was only after the development of the great Holy Sun that they began to make a name for themselves in the heavenly barbarian continent. Many guests, before waiting for the start of the sacred mountain grand competition, looked up at the sky and earth, casting solemn and respectful gazes towards the Holy Land in their hearts. With the emergence of the new Holy Emperor, the central province would take a step further on the road to becoming an aristocratic family, so the forces attached to the sacred mountain would definitely take a step further. Everyone knew in their hearts that the sacred mountain, which was secretly competing with the Sky Dragon sect, would be reborn. Golden clouds filled the sky, and groups of spiritual birds and flying beasts circled in the auspicious clouds, their beasts' eyes filled with overflowing golden light. Between the towering mountains and precipitous ridges, towering peaks pierced through the clouds, towering and majestic. They were all filled with people stretching their necks, their eyes filled with the same desire. Those who were qualified to enter the sacred martial hall and could watch the sacred mountain grand competition with their own eyes today were only the distinguished guests, direct disciples, and elders of the sacred mountain. The rest were not included in the queue. Therefore, the remaining disciples of the sacred mountain could only stand on their own peaks and watch today's sacred mountain grand competition from afar. Fortunately, the sacred mountain had equipped each peak with a huge number of flowing image stones, allowing many people who did not have the chance to see the birth of the new Holy Emperor to fulfill their wishes. In front of the sacred martial hall, the guests who had arrived first congratulated each other, and with the arrival of a group of people, everyone cast their gazes over. Look, that's the father of the new Holy Emperor of the barbarian cities, Lu family. The ninth Holy Maiden is the Holy Emperor? Hey, that's not right. I heard that she was engaged to that madman Su Yi since she was young. Sure. A guest glared, then looked at Lu Zhongyin and the others, lowering his voice. You dare to mention that person's name in the sacred mountain. Do you want to die? I heard that person disappeared from the Tianfeng ranking tournament and hasn't come out until now. So, this Lu Ruashi probably couldn't wait any longer and hurriedly went to the new Holy Emperor. Everyone was talking at once, and the guests who came and went cast their gazes at Lu Zongyuan and the others. Inside the Xinjiang gate, Sito Lian led a group of elders of the sect and was already in front of the sacred martial hall. When they saw Lu Zongyuan coming, they all showed displeasure. Lu Ruashi loves Su Yi so much. How could she agree to this holy emperor? A woman with an orange veil, her delicate body trembled, and the yuan qi in her hand was about to burst out. Situ Luyun strode towards Lu Zongyuan, clasping his hands in greeting. Standing beside the orange-veiled woman was Su Kuanga, an elder Gu Suxin. She said in a low voice. Gu Suxin was graceful and elegant, her long black hair tied high behind her head, graceful and noble. Her eyebrows were slightly knitted, and her white hand lightly hit Mu Yao. Today is the Sacred Mountain Tournament. You just have to watch. Under the orange veil, The white and flawless Mu Yao's eyes seemed to exude waves of light. She twisted her waist and pouted. Su, he still hasn't come to an end, and you're so anxious to marry Ruashi off. I feel bad for that little pervert. Oh, with a heroic and vigorous beast roar, the 108 golden unicorns opened their bloody mouths and burst out a roar that shook the world. The huge beasts' bodies were submerged in the misty fog, and the beasts roared continuously. Their limbs were constantly slapping the ground, and the fierce sonic boom resounded through the sky. It was obvious that the entire sacred martial hall had an extremely terrifying space restriction. Even under such a commotion, it still remained motionless. All the guests, including the Xinjiang Gate and the barbarian city's Lu family, had their eyes lit up. The Sacred Mountain Tournament was about to begin. An old man wearing a golden robe with mysterious patterns walked out of the sacred martial hall first, followed by two groups of people. They were the elders of the Great Holy Sons faction and the elders of the Fifth Holy Sons faction. They confronted each other, not giving way to each other. The old man's eyebrows were high, like a mountain carving. There were two deep wrinkles between his eyebrows, giving people a kind of huge pressure. His silver hair fluttered in the wind, and his cold eyes looked around the audience. Only the sound of a tsunami could be heard. Greetings, Elder Duanmu. Greetings, Elder Duanmu. When everyone saw the old man, their eyes turned solemn, and they didn't dare to move. The person who came was the chief elder of the sacred martial hall, Duanmu Xiongtu. He was the authoritative figure of martial arts guidance for all the disciples of the Sacred Mountain. Chapter 1985. Duanmu Xiongtu's eyes were sharp and bright, like a vulture's. He swept his gaze over the crowd. He didn't say a word, and didn't say a word. A trace of arrogance and pride flashed in his eyes, and a powerful aura burst out from his imposing manner. Everyone looked at the elders and deacons on both sides. At the end of the line were the holy sons and holy daughters who supported the Great Holy Son and the Fifth Holy Son, but they did not see the main characters of the day, Yuchi Changfeng, Xiahong House, and Lu Ruashi. The crowd began to whisper and discuss, looking at the elders' team with confusion. Why don't I see the Great Holy Son? The Fifth Holy Son doesn't see him either. Don't you see that the Holy Son is not there? That's strange. What time is it now? Is something going to happen again? Sita Luyun and Lu Zongyuan both frowned. Suruga, who was standing at the side, twitched his red nose and narrowed his eyes. What is the Holy Mountain trying to do? Gu Suxin, who was holding Mu Yao's arm, had her clothes fluttering in the wind. She smiled gently and looked at Su Kuanga. Su Kuanga's short body suddenly trembled, and an arrogant and unruly smile appeared on his face. He said coldly in a low voice, "No matter what the Holy Mountain has in mind, as long as Ruashi's marriage is not a foregone conclusion before year comes, everything will be fine." Gu Suxin's eyes widened as she asked suspiciously, "You mean Sui? Will he really come?" He disappeared in. Suruga raised his eyebrows. The sword aura around his body was like a biting cold autumn frost. His eyes were clear and cold. He said seriously, "How can my disciple disappear without a trace? If I say he will come, he will come. He will definitely come. He will definitely come." The corners of Gu Suxin's mouth curled up in an evil arc. Waves of fluctuations appeared in her eyes. She was stunned on the spot. She unconsciously tightened her grip on Mu Yao's hands and pursed her lips. "Ever since he acknowledged you as his master, you seem to have returned to 20 years ago. You've become the peerless senior brother Su again." The corners of her lips curled up into a sweet smile. Her hair that was stained by the wind and frost shook slightly, revealing her tenderness. Suruga had been staring at Duanmu Xiongtu in front of the sacred martial hall. His ears moved slightly, but he didn't answer. Holy Mountain, at the peak of the back mountain, a white figure was suspended in midair. The man was candid and upright, as if he was a lone pine tree. His eyes were as cold as lightning, and his robes fluttered behind him. His entire person was filled with a mysterious aura that made people want to explore him. He crossed his arms and stood proudly on top of the mountain peak. His eyes shone with colorful light, and his bearing was unparalleled. The man had a puzzled look in his eyes. He crossed his arms and rested his chin on his right palm. His gaze was directed at the sacred martial hall as he muttered in a low voice. That little girl from Sangyan Palace is really loyal. No matter what, she refused to say who she gave the sword to. However, according to the description of the sword by others, it is very similar to the sword that Master said. I finally found it. When he spoke of the sword, the man in white's eyes trembled for no reason. His unyielding eyes shot out a trace of throbbing. Then, the man's mouth curved upwards. He slowly raised his handsome eyes. There was a touch of simple elegance and grace in them. So, you must come today. Don't let me down. Whoosh. The man in white locked onto a narrow concave in the back mountain. He stepped on the void, leaving a faint space crack in the space. The man's power collapsed, and the concave flashed a heart-shaking golden light. The golden cloud trembled, and the ancient pressure quickly revealed a gap. The middle-aged man in white disappeared into the void. In front of the sacred martial hall, Duanmu Xiongtu coughed violently. His wide and withered palm slowly wiped in front of him. A huge soul pressure collapsed the world. Under the shocked eyes of everyone, a vigorous voice resounded. Today, the Holy Mountain Grand Tournament will be judged by the Great Holy Sun and the Fifth Holy Sun. With all of you as witnesses, Xiongtu is overjoyed. As soon as his voice fell, Duanmu Xiongtu opened his hands. His wide and thick robe rolled out like billowing waves. In an instant, everyone's eyes shot to the east and west sides of the sacred martial hall. Two overwhelming pressures shot out. The figure landed on the ground. The holy statue on the east side was sacred and majestic. The void above was filled with terrifying golden light. The energy on the west side was surging. The pure pressure rushed out. Spirit birds whistled in the sky between the auspicious clouds. A huge, sacred shadow stepped on the clouds. It was as if a god had come to the world. In an instant, everyone's eyes trembled. The two majestic energies fought against each other. Above the void, wind and clouds surged. Golden lightning flashed. Everyone could not help but feel creeped out. They crawled on the ground and saluted loudly. Their voices suddenly exploded. Greetings to the great holy sun. Greetings to the fifth holy sun. The voices on both sides were so loud that they shook the sky. The billowing sound waves rushed to the sky. The auspicious clouds spread and the spirit birds fled. Two figures slowly landed on the ground. Yuchi Changfeng was standing at the head of the east side. He was wearing a loose golden robe. His long and narrow eyes carried the aura of a king that could shake the world. His figure was slightly slender. He kept playing with the jade ring in his hand that was decorated with golden patterns. His evil and handsome face had a licentious smile as he looked at the Xiahong house. On the west side stood the Xiahong house. He was wearing a pale yellow robe with golden embroidery. His black hair was like a waterfall. His eyes were like stars. His eyelashes were slightly long. His hair was like a knife, and his eyebrows were like ink painting. Ignoring the shouts of the crowd, Yuchi Changfeng's eyes flashed. A holy sound rolled from his throat. It was as if the world was suppressed, causing everyone's soul to tremble and their eyes to widen. Xiahong House, I haven't seen you for a few months. Your cultivation has grown fast, as expected of my opponent. Yuchi Changfeng's cold eyes trembled as he snorted coldly. Xiahong House stood proudly with his hands behind his back. His tall and straight figure was like a statue. A domineering aura surged from his body. The aura of an 8th-level origin emperor was like a wild dragon that came out of the mountains, looking down on the world. I never saw you as an opponent. The position of the Holy Emperor is mine. Xiahong House said indifferently. However, there was an indescribable domineering aura and arrogance. Too arrogant. Xiahong House looked down on everything. Yuchi Changfeng had lost in terms of strategy. Yuchi Changfeng's evil face surged with killing intent, but was suppressed by the Holy Fire Elder and the others. The experts present only realized that Xiahong House was already at the 7th level Origin Emperor realm. In just a few months, he had risen by 4 levels. Only a monstrous genius like Xiehong House could achieve such shocking progress. During the previous Tianfeng ranking tournament, Xiehong House was only at the 4th level Origin Emperor realm. Now, he is actually at the 8th level Origin Emperor realm. What a genius! A genius! Yuqi Chanfeng has also risen by 1 level. A 35-year-old 9th level Origin Emperor realm. It is equally shocking. The Holy Mountain is magnificent. The Holy Mountain will prosper from today onwards. Don't forget that Xiehong House did not receive any favor from the Holy Mountain. He was able to reach where he is today purely by himself. Even the Holy Venerate did not teach him. What? Purely by himself? 8th level Origin Emperor realm before the age of 30? What kind of talent is that? Chapter 1986. Hearing this, other people's eyes flashed with splendor. When everyone looked at Duanmu Xiongtu, Xiehong House also nodded to him. Not bad. Very good. 5th Holy Son Tianfeng has returned with rapid progress. Congratulations. Duanmu Xiongtu's eyes were full of praise as he nodded continuously. Standing aside awkwardly, Yuqi Chongfeng's face twitched. Duanmu Xiongtu's words were clearly saying that Xiehong House was a genius, and he was an idiot. Yuqi Chongfeng said coldly as he shook his body viciously. His malicious eyes revealed a cunning look that was not noticed by others. He said coldly, "Elder Duanmu, can we start now? Hurry up and tell us where the Lord and the 9th Holy Daughter are." Yuqi Chongfeng sneered in his heart without any courtesy. After this reminder, everyone realized that the Lord and the 9th Holy Daughter were not there. Boom! Duanmu Xiong too glanced at Yuqi Chongfeng with disdain. Then he looked at the Holy Flame Elder and the others who followed the great Holy Sun. His eyes were cold, and there was a hint of desolate disappointment in them as he spoke. "Great Holy Sun, don't be impatient." Duanmu Xiongtu's wide robe fluttered in the wind as his figure quickly rose. The sacred martial hall behind him seemed to be magnified dozens of times. It was so big that it could measure the heaven and earth. The sound waves shook the sky as the phantom of the sacred martial hall filled the heaven and earth in an instant. Sacred golden light flashed brightly, dazzling everyone. Holy King's aura. Everyone who was invited looked up at the heaven and earth. Their bodies trembled and their faces changed greatly. In the sky, Duanmu Xiongtu's old voice trembled slightly as a thick pressure filled the entire place. It was as if he was kneeling down to heaven and earth, solemn and heavy. The Holy Emperor has fallen, and the cause of his death is a mystery. For more than 20 years, the Lord has saved the Holy Mountain from storm. The Holy Mountain can stabilize today's situation because of the wise strategy of the Lord. Whether it is the Great Holy Sun or the 5th Holy Sun, the new Holy Emperor will have the will to carry the Holy Mountain forward and not disgrace the name of the Holy Mountain for thousands of years. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone was filled with excitement, and all of them revealed expressions of reverence. Divine radiance that covered the sky swept out while vast spatial ripples were ceaselessly formed, and it was a dignified and arrogant scene. Today is the day of our Holy Mountain's grand competition. Since the Holy Mountain's opening, there's been a rule. In the Holy Mountain's martial path, the one who reaches the top is the first, regardless of relationship, status, or rank. You only need to fulfill one condition to become an emperor of the Sacred Mountain. Yuqi Changfeng and Zhu Honglu looked at each other. They knew that Duanmu Xiongtu was explaining the rules of today's competition. Their faces turned serious, and a surge of fighting spirit burst out from their bodies. The Sage Emperor's position belongs to those who have attained it first. An emperor of the Sacred Mountain could only be called a true emperor of the Sacred Mountain with the assistance of the Sacred Monarch Sword. However, ever since the previous Saint Emperor lost the Monarch Sword, no one had seen the true appearance of the Monarch Sword. The Holy Mountain cannot be without a ruler, not to mention that the Holy Mountain has been without a true imperial emperor for more than 20 years. After a discussion between the Holy Venerate and the Elder Pavilion, the two of you will be qualified to enter the Heaven Qinyuan Golden Array formation as long as you are acknowledged by the first Saint Emperor's innate Saint King aura. Heaven Qinyuan Golden Array formation? Everyone was puzzled, and Suruga frowned as a bad premonition rose in his heart. Teacher, what is that old man talking about? Muyao asked in a low voice as she raised her hand to lift the veil. The Heaven Qinyuan Golden Array formation. The Holy Mountain's 10,000 years old defensive array formation. It was laid down by the Holy Mountain's first-generation super experts and strengthened by the strongest imperial emperors. It is the Holy Mountain's lifeline. Gu Suxin raised her chin slightly, and her eyes narrowed. Those around her who knew the array formation's power took a deep breath and looked up at the sky. Far away, golden lights flashed, gods chanted, and ancient wind and thunder rumbled, sending chills down their spines. The innate Saint King aura's acknowledgement. Ha ha ha! Zhu Honglu, you lost. You lost. Yuqi Changfeng raised his head and laughed. The emerald ring on his finger was surrounded by golden light, like a vicious scorpion. Evil light floated in the air as he stared at Zhu Honglu. Zhu Honglu has never received the orthodox teachings of the Saint King aura. He comprehended the Saint King aura on his own. He's not from the Holy Mountain. How can he compare with our great saint? The elders of Shenghua sect were excited as if they had already won. The old voice slowly fell to the ground, and the huge light shadow behind him still occupied the sky. Duanmu Xiongtu raised his long white eyebrows slightly and looked at Zhuhonglu seriously. Fifth Saint, do you have any objections? Zhuhonglu's face was cold. Facing the disdain and ridicule of the elders of the east side, his eyes were as deep as ice. He didn't put Shenghua and the others in his eyes at all. It's okay. Let's begin. Yuqi Changfeng, Shenghua, and the others sneered and looked at Zhuhonglu as if a good show was about to begin. In that case, please enter the sacred martial hall separately. Accept the baptism of the innate Saint King aura. If the Saint King aura doesn't accept it, you will be automatically ejected and be seriously injured. Duanmu Xiongtu stared deeply at Zhonglu, then nodded heavily. An array of light flowed out of his dark eyes. Boom! Golden light overflowed, and the light bloomed like fireworks. The bright divine light rose into the sky, and the divine shadow spread out in all directions, causing the void to tremble. Everyone get ready. After entering one after another and receiving the baptism, you will be transported by the innate Saint King aura to the sky of Qinyuan Golden Array, where the 9 saintesses are. The two of you will find the 9 saintesses and have the final battle. The Lord will personally decide who the next Holy Emperor will belong to. The winner will be Lu Ruashi's husband. When the last 2 words fell, the eyes of the young people present were burning, and they swallowed their saliva one after another. The silhouette of the 9 saintesses seemed to have walked out of a painting, shattering the hearts of countless people. Su, he hasn't arrived yet. What should we do? Mu Yao started to panic, and under the orange veil, her brows furrowed and her eyes turned misty. Suruga and Gu Suxin's faces turned even darker, and Sita Luyun clenched her fists. This was the Saint Mountain's internal affair, and the Saint Mountain was not something that the Shunjian Gate could meddle with. In the mountains, countless eyes were filled with shock, and then a fierce golden light pierced through the clouds and swept across the sky. Yuqi Changfeng and Zhu Honglu looked at each other. Yuqi Changfeng's eyes were gloomy, and in his resentment, vigorous yuan qi flowed like a storm. Far away, a loud rumble could be heard. Roar! Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. Their gazes locked onto the terrifying black shadow in the distance like sword lights. Boom, boom, boom. A fierce aura rushed into the clouds, and a huge beast shadow occupied the sky. It moved at an incredible speed, and its terrifying aura made everyone tremble in fear. Bulsh asterisk T. Who gave you the guts to decide Lu Ruashi's future? A deep and youthful voice resounded throughout the universe. A ferocious and powerful aura rushed into the heavens like an earthquake. The mountains and peaks trembled incomparably in an instant. Chapter 1987. The black beast shadow was shrouded in a layer of hazy fire. While everyone was still in shock, it rushed in front of them in a flash. Yuchi Changfeng and Xiahong Lu rose into the air at the same time. The golden shadow behind them overlapped, and the surging vital energy was like a mighty storm. Their eyes were as dazzling as the sun. However, Xiahong Lu's eyes were even more profound and gloomy. One was like the blazing sun at noon, hot and dazzling, while the other was like the blazing sun that had just been born, bright and vigorous. Xiahong Lu belonged to the latter. The two of them stood in the air at the same time, looking at the black shadow that seemed to be the end of the world. A thin figure on the black shadow gradually became clearer. His chiseled face had a tinge of youth, and his eyes were red. His vital energy was surging, and he looked ferocious. Who else could it be but Sui? Sui, Yuchi Changfeng and Xiahong Lu shouted at the same time, and the dazzling light became even brighter. It's Sui. It's really Sui. When she saw the young man on the black beast shadow, Mu Yao's eyes immediately turned red. She was extremely excited, and she pulled Gu Suxin's arm with all her might as she whispered. Gu Suxin kept nodding, and her face was red. At the same time, she noticed that Suruga's hands had begun to tremble uncontrollably. Suruga's old eyes narrowed, and the corners of her mouth curled up. Gu Suxin had never seen Suruga care so much about a disciple. What? That person is Sui. He's so young? The king of geniuses? The number one person in the Sky Barbarian realm? The Sui who killed the young palace master of the Long family? He's back. He's back. Suddenly, the audience on the sacred mountain was in an uproar. They pointed at the young man in the air, and their eyes widened as chills ran down their spines. Sui stood proudly on the Beast King, and his overwhelming power froze the air. The mighty power in his body surged, and his ferocious aura shot into the sky. His strength of a first-level origin ancestor shocked everyone, and their eyes trembled. The beast's shadow was like a battleship that could destroy the world. The young man standing on it was peerless, and his eyes were filled with rage. He was indescribably evil, wild, and unruly and fierce. Chila, the golden fire beast king, roared into the sky. The mountains trembled, and the energy of heaven and earth trembled. The huge figure transformed into a tall and straight figure, and an extremely terrifying aura burst out from it. It was as if the ancient beast emperor had descended into the world. Master, the golden flame beast king, stood respectfully beside Sui. His eyes were arrogant as he glanced at the people on the Saint Mountain with disdain. Gulp, demon domain, sovereign beast. It's a revered beast of the demon realm. The person beside him is Sui. He's actually at the first level of origin ancestor realm. Didn't he disappear during the Tian Foam battle? Many people cried out in surprise. The auras that Sui and the Golden Fire Beast King had revealed had already left countless people dumbfounded. Hundreds of gazes seemed to have been electrocuted. Exclamations and fearful gasps instantly filled the whole place. Among the crowd, people from Shunjian Gate and Lu family in Barbarian City were breathing rapidly. Origin ancestor. How did this brat's strength increase again? Is he abnormal? Mu Yao's face was still covered by the orange veil. The surprise in her almond-shaped eyes had long been replaced by fear. Her mind was shaken. Gu Suxin had quietly wrapped her arms around Suruga's arm. Suruga's aura burst out again like a dragon hiding in the abyss. The wild smile on his withered face could no longer be contained. He said in a trembling voice, "Good, good, good." The shock in Situ Liuyun's eyes could not be removed. His gaze trembled fiercely as he moved closer to him. He lowered his voice and said excitedly, "Elder Sui is the golden dragon of the heavens. Congratulations, congratulations." Su Yi's return indicated that Situ Liuyun had finally bet on the right treasure. Xinjiang Gate would also walk on a glorious path because of Su Yi's arrival. Su Yi. Lu Zongyuan had the lowest cultivation in the whole place. He was only invited because of his identity as the father of the ninth saintess. Facing Su Yi's demon-like aura that overflowed the heavens, the pressure that filled the heavens, Lu Zongyuan's face had already turned pale, filled with fear. In his eyes, it was hard to imagine that the young man who had caused a ruckus in the Sacred Mountain's examination and threatened to destroy the Sacred Mountain had really come. Moreover, he had come alone. After a storm of blood, Su Yi was still the same as before. The young man was still the same as before. The whole place became silent because of Su Yi's arrival. Everyone's gaze was locked onto Su Yi. Behind him, a roar resounded through the sky. Yuqi Chongfeng's 9th-level Origin Emperor aura was completely revealed. His fiery eyes were also fluctuating. His eyes were as sinister as blood as he clenched his teeth and said, "Su Yi, how dare you come to my holy mountain after surviving such a calamity? Who gave you the guts to do that?" Sheng Hua and the other elders immediately drew their swords and shouted. 7 or 8 figures at the pinnacle of the Origin Grandmaster realm and Sheng Hua's Origin Dominion realm stepped into the sky. Golden light filled the air and killing intent swept out. "How dare you come to my sacred mountain? If I don't take revenge for the disciples of the sacred mountain today, I, Sheng Hua, am not a man." The aura fluctuated as a vast and terrifying wind swept across the entire sacred mountain, shaking the sky and earth. At the same time, the elders behind Xiahong House were also furious. Xiahong House waved his hand indifferently and temporarily stopped them from rising into the sky. Presumptuous! The Golden Fire Beast King changed his respectful look. His eyes were filled with arrogance and ferocity. His voice shook the surroundings. In a split second, auspicious beasts roared within the thousands of mountains. Heaven and earth resonated. Endless demonic aura seemed to have crossed the heaven and earth, overlooking the heaven and earth. "Master," these old farts spoke rudely. "Let me take care of them on your behalf." The Golden Fire Beast King's eyes were fierce, as killing intent circulated in his beast eyes. Su Yi waved his hand and squinted his eyes. Seeing his old enemy so angry, his expression was extremely serious. "If a dog bites you, would you bite a dog? Don't you think it's dirty?" Su Yi smiled slightly. The Golden Fire Beast King looked up and thought for a moment. Then he nodded his head. Below him, 7 or 8 Origin ancestors at the peak of their cultivation suddenly shouted, "Die! Do you want to die?" Boom! Light flashed, and a terrifying oppressive aura turned into 7 or 8 light pillars that directly shot towards Su Yi. The Golden Fire Beast King roared angrily as his body trembled. An incomparably powerful and obscure flame halo enveloped his entire body, including Su Yi. Smack! With a wave of his hand, an even fiercer flame flew out and collided with each other across the sky. The sound of the collision that made one's soul tremble resounded through the void. Sparks flew everywhere, and heaven and earth roared. The blazing atmosphere was accompanied by a monstrous soul suppression. Instantly, everyone present was terrified. Those with low cultivation levels even turned pale and vomited blood. "Bastard, you bastard! You shall die today. Su Yi, get down here and die. I'm going to tear you into pieces." The flames dissipated, and the terrifying soul suppression tore the space apart. Within the halo, Su Yi was unscathed. His deep eyes were extremely cold, like 2 endless abysses, staring at the group of Saint Mountain experts who were clamoring below. The experts from Saint Mountain all released their auras. At this moment, their Yuan Qi was in a mess. Their faces were slightly pale as they looked at Su Yi, panting. Chapter 1988. There was a huge gap between the Origin Grandmaster realm and the Demon Domain realm. There was an absolute difference between them, not to mention that the Golden Fire Beast King was a primordial beast master that had lived in the space-time mezzanine for hundreds of years. The Golden Fire Beast King was covered in red flames, and a strong demonic aura covered his entire body. His eyes were arrogant, and there was a hint of anger at the corner of his mouth. Level 2 of the Demon Domain Realm. Shenghua muttered. His eyes trembled, and there was a serious look in his eyes. He hadn't attacked just now because he wanted to test Su Yi's strength. Su Yi had always been strange. Today, he dared to come alone without any extra help. There was only a Demon Domain Realm expert following behind him. He must have some unexpected tricks up his sleeve. Shenghua's expression couldn't help but change when he saw an overlord, a Demon Domain expert, respectfully standing guard by Su Yi's side. His eyes were incomparably fierce, but he still remained gloomy and silent. It's a Demon Domain Realm expert. How did Su Yi do it? A Demon Domain Realm expert was an absolute overlord even among the demon venerables. How could he lower himself to be Su Yi's subordinate? Gu Suxin's gentle face was cold. She looked down at Suruga and said softly, "Are you going to help or not? This brat actually dared to come here alone." Suruga's wrinkled face flashed coldly. He looked at the two majestic auras in the sky and turned his head. "A Demon Domain Realm expert is beside you. Don't be impatient." As soon as his voice fell, Su Kuanga's eyes quietly blazed. Sui really came back as he said, "How could he not be happy?" At the same time, he shot a gloomy look at Shenghua and the others. His sharp killing intent and sword aura filled the sky. A tense atmosphere filled the void. The two groups faced each other in the air. Terrifying golden light shone. 7 or 8 Origin Grandmasters glared at Su Yi. The divine aura in their hands was as strong as the sea. Yuchi Changfeng stood in front of them. His eyes were also filled with killing intent. He hadn't expected that there would be a Demon Domain Realm expert beside Su Yi. It was difficult to tell his true cultivation level from his aura, but he knew that he was not far from the Holy Fire Elder. With a sinister smile, Yuchi Changfeng straightened his body and shouted towards the sky. "Su Yi, you really are a bug that won't die. You actually dare to come to our sacred mountain to die. I really admire your courage." The people below discussed in low voices. Lu Zongyuan's face was even more ashen. The Su Yi of today was like a god that had descended, the aura of his entire body piercing through the air. Recalling his actions during the Holy Mountain Assembly and today, he brought the Lu clan to witness the Holy Mountain Grand Tournament with his own eyes. He couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine and tremble all over. "Ha ha!" Su Yi laughed heartily, and a majestic aura rose behind him like a god. His eyes narrowed as he looked at the people of the Holy Mountain. "You bunch of old dogs haven't died yet, so how can I die first? If I were to die, how would I be able to witness your actions of stealing my wife?" Instantly, the people of the Holy Mountain began to curse even more. Crimson light soared into the sky, and all kinds of curses rang out incessantly. "Su Yi, not only do you not want to live, you're also shameless." Yuchi Changfeng sneered. Su Yi's arrogance had already exceeded his imagination. Could it be that he really thought he could snatch Lu Ruoshi from the Holy Mountain? "Su Yi, don't be arrogant. Today you will die here, and you still want to snatch the new Holy Mountain Saint Sovereign? You're a toad that wants to eat swan meat. Arrogant brat, I haven't settled the grudge of the Holy Mountain Academy with you, and you still want to ruin the Holy Mountain Grand Tournament. I won't let you off today." Holy Fire waved his hand, and the crowd was shocked. Some of the elders' eyes were filled with hatred, but Holy Fire was still patient. "Su Yi, Lu Ruoshi is the 9th Holy Maiden of the Holy Mountain. Your childhood marriage agreement is no longer valid. Wang Chuanda and the Holy Mountain's Deacon Wang went to your barbarian city to cancel the marriage. This matter is known to everyone in the Holy Mountain. The cancellation of the marriage has already been settled, so don't make trouble." Su Yi had long expected that the people of the Holy Mountain would say this. His eyes flickered, and his voice was mixed with Yuan Qi, reverberating in the air. "Where's the Lu family? Come out and speak." Shua. Suddenly, the focus of everyone's eyes was cast on Lu Zongyuan. Facing everyone's gaze, Lu Zongyuan tidied his clothes, trying his best to calm the surging blood in his heart. He stepped out of the crowd and looked at the void. Uncle Lu, long time no see. Su Yi bowed slightly and said gently. Back then, the Holy Mountains inspection and the transfer of the Su family, the Lu family had also contributed, so Su Yi naturally treated them with respect. Lu Zongyuan did not expect that the arrogant Su Yi would treat him so courteously. He was immediately terrified, and his eyes flickered with shock. Did Ruoxi personally agree to the cancellation of the marriage agreement by the Holy Mountain, or did she report it to you? Su Yi's eyes flickered, his incomparable charm spreading out. Instantly, everyone held their breath, waiting for Lu Zongyuan's answer. Today's Holy Mountain competition was the day that the Saint Venerate and Saint Emperor would be born. If the marriage agreement between Lu Ruoxi and Su Yi was not cancelled, it would be hard to say who would obtain the recognition of the next Saint Venerate. Yuqi Chongfeng's sinister gaze swept across the people of the Lu family. His eyelids flickered, and he rubbed the ring in his hand. You have to weigh your words, future father-in-law. Brother Zongyuan, that is the truth. Situ Liuyun's gaze darkened. She was afraid that Lu Zongyuan would say something wrong under the pressure of the Holy Mountain, so she went to Lu Zongyuan's side to encourage him. Lu Zongyuan's beard trembled. Everyone around him was a master that he could not afford to offend. A small barbarian city did not want to be involved in the disputes of top forces. Countless pairs of eyes were like giant stones pressing down on his heart. Very quickly, Lu Zongyuan was sweating profusely. His lips trembling, he gathered his courage and looked at the experts. Elder Wang Chuanda did indeed mention the cancellation of the marriage during the examination in Barbarian City. But Ruoxi did not agree, and I even more so did not agree. There were also deacons who specially went to the Su family, but the head of the Su family did not agree, and the old patriarch Su Yuntian even more did not agree. Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Even the eyes of the people of the Holy Mountain were similarly heavy, revealing a complex and ruminating expression. Situ Liu nodded with a slight smile, patting Lu Zongyuan's shoulder. A warm pressure flowed into his dantian, and Lu Zongyuan's expression relaxed slightly. Then how did Lu Ruoxi respond? Please tell everyone. His gaze trembling, Lu Zongyuan looked around, then clenched his teeth and said, Ruoxi did not agree to cancel the marriage, although it was the order of her parents and the words of the matchmaker. But Ruoxi also has the right to decide on the important matter of marriage. Whether or not to cancel the marriage is based on Ruoxi's personal opinion. As his voice fell, the gazes of everyone present turned to Yuqi Chongfeng. In the crowd, the people of Shunjian Gate sneered. The marriage between Lu Ruoxi and Su Yi had not been cancelled. In name, Lu Ruoxi was Su Yi's official wife. Naturally, no one had the right to criticize her. The great competition of the Holy Mountain was not legitimate. It was not legitimate. Chapter 1989. Using Lu Ruoxi as the standard for today's sacred martial grand competition was unfair. Using someone else's wife as a wager was the Sacred Mountain's fault. Did you hear that? Yuqi Chongfeng? You dare to bully me and steal my wife. What are your intentions? Looking at Lu Zongyuan below, Lu Zongyuan slumped back as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. So what? You are the Sacred Mountain's mortal enemy, and Lu Ruoxi is our Sacred Mountain's 9th holy maiden. The day she joined the Sacred Mountain was the day she drew the line between you and her. If you know what's good for you, get out of the Sacred Mountain. Yuqi Chongfeng's face twitched as he looked at Lu Zongyuan with a malicious gaze. Great Holy Sun is right. Boy, today is our Sacred Mountain's grand competition. Sacred Mountain will not pursue your hatred for the time being. Get out of here is your choice. Don't be untactful, young man. Great Holy Sun has already shown mercy. The Sacred Mountain is not a force you can offend. I have to cherish my life even more. Great Holy Sun is wise. Su, you will spare your life for now. Don't make a mistake. Leave quickly. The group of Sacred Mountain elders listened to Yuqi Chongfeng's words. There was no point in arguing with Su Yi over whether he and Lu Ruoxi were husband and wife. The Sacred Mountain was in the wrong. Today's main event was to let the two enter the Grand Array and find Lu Ruashi, the temporary new Holy Sovereign. As for who the Holy Sovereign was, it did not matter. Everyone took a step back. As long as Su Yi did not cause trouble and ruin the Sacred Mountain's grand ceremony, Su Yi's life could be saved for the future. Su Yi scratched his ear, his lips curling into a cold smile. Now it was very clear. Since Lu Ruashi was his wife, he would not allow anyone to touch her, and he would not allow anyone to carry out the Sacred Mountain's grand ceremony in the name of marriage. Su Yi would personally enter the array today to take Lu Ruashi back. I'll say it again, old fart. Lu Ruashi is my wife. If any of you enter the array today to marry her, I will kill them one by one. Even if the Sacred Mountain is destroyed, I will take Lu Ruashi away. No one is allowed to enter the Golden Light Array. The rumbling sound of fire was mixed with vital chi. The fierce and bloody vital chi surged in the air. Su Yi's face was cold, and his eyes were bloodshot, adding to his malevolence. Yuchi Changfeng and the Holy Mountain Elders' eyes turned cold. The Yuan Qi ribbons in their hands blasted out again. The arrow-like rays were like dragons and tigers leaving the mountains. In the depths of the blue dome of heaven, a faint golden light pervaded the air. An obscure and enormous aura heavily surrounded Su Yi. Break! Su Yi bellowed. Golden lights flashed in Su Yi's eyes as he pushed his palms forward. Together with the golden fire beast king, flames shot out from his palms, twisting the void in their path and creating cracks in space. Boom! The light exploded, and the huge shockwave pushed Yuchi Changfeng back. 7 to 8 Origin Ancestor Realm Pinnacle experts took advantage of it. Yuchi Changfeng's eyes turned ferocious as anger rose within him. This was a slap in the face in front of everyone. Slap! Slap! A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Yuchi Changfeng stared at Su Yi in the sky with a vicious gaze. His body did not move at all. Little did he know that Su Yi's last half a month of training in the space-time mezzanine was not something these Origin Ancestor Realm Pinnacle experts could compare with. His body, which had been tempered by the primordial dragon breath, glistened in the golden light and auspicious clouds in the sky. Su Yi shook his robe lightly and looked at the Holy Mountain Elder as if nothing had happened. The shockwave surged above their heads like a wave. Countless people present widened their eyes and trembled as if they had seen a ghost. So strong. How did Su Yi become so strong? 7 to 8 Origin Ancestor Realm Pinnacle experts and Monster Domain experts can block them. Su Yi actually did not move at all. What kind of strength is this? Su Yi must have some external force. Otherwise, he would not dare to come alone. Discussions filled the front of the sacred martial hall. Most of the martial artists had come to watch the show. Su Yi was so strong that a strong pressure filled the entire place. Many people could not help but tremble with shock in their eyes. I think you are courting death. Yuchi Changfeng roared angrily as his fighting spirit condensed again. During the Tianfeng ranking tournament, Su Yi had repeatedly caused trouble for him. Now that he had come to the Holy Mountain, he had actually slapped him in the face. If this could be tolerated, what else could be tolerated? Anger surged in his heart as a blood-red, killing intent burst into his brain. Yuchi Changfeng was suddenly pulled back by a withered hand behind him. It was the Holy Flame Elder. Great Saint, Su Yi's arrival is strange. We must guard against him. Even though the Holy Flame Elder was very angry, he could tell from the previous 2 exchanges that Su Yi must have some tricks up his sleeve. Even though the Holy Flame Elder wanted to cut Su Yi into pieces, he did not dare to kill him. What? Are we going to let them trample on the dignity of the Holy Mountain? Yuchi Changfeng's face was green and red. His eyes looked like they could bleed at any time. The overwhelming killing intent could no longer be suppressed. Xiang House, are you dead? Aren't you going to participate in the Holy Mountain tournament? Yuchi Changfeng glared fiercely. The 5th Saint had always been indifferent, but now that the enmity had come to his doorstep, Yuchi Changfeng could use this matter to block Xiang House. Xiahong House had been standing in the same place all this while. There was a faintly discernible coldness in his black eyes. He secretly twitched, and the cultivation of the 8th-level Origin Emperor realm suddenly erupted. Everyone present was amazed. Su-yi, what will make you stop? Xiahong House had his hand behind his back. His black hair draped over his shoulders, and his starry eyes emitted a cold intent. A proud and noble aura flowed out. High up in the sky, Xiahong House's aura swept through the storm. Su-yi was secretly shocked, but he immediately said calmly, I'm not interested in the Holy Mountain tournament. Bring out Lu Ruashi's palanquin, and I won't wash the Holy Mountain with blood today. Wash the Holy Mountain with blood, Xiahong House said softly. His eyes shot out radiance, and the coldness permeated the heaven and earth. I'm afraid you aren't qualified to destroy the Holy Mountain. The Holy Mountain's foundation isn't something you can pry into. Today, if you don't cause trouble, I'll let you leave safely. In addition, I must obtain the Holy Emperor's position. If the 9th Saint has no intention of being with me, I'll definitely fulfill your wish. Don't worry about this. This was already the biggest promise the 5th Saint had given. Compared to the 1st Saint, the 5th Saint was extremely sincere and sincere. The martial artist below nodded. This was already the best outcome, and also the biggest concession the Holy Mountain had made to this valiant young man. The Holy Mountain tournament is only held once every 20 years. There can't be any mistakes in the selection of the Holy Emperor. Sheng was said softly behind Yuchi Changfeng as if he had agreed. In the corner of the crowd, a fiery red figure took a step back. Her eyes were hazy, and her sexy curves were like a water snake. However, they were faintly trembling, which made her look even more pitiful. He pushed his palm forward. He seemed a little impatient, but there was a crafty glint in his eyes. Xiahong House, I thought you were a smart person, but it turns out that you're also a fool. A complete fool. Chapter 1990. Xiahong Lu frowned. He, who had always been arrogant, suddenly became serious. Then, a firm voice resounded in the air. Old fogies of the Holy Mountain, listen up. My life is in my own hands. I can do whatever I want in the sea of blood and the mountain of knives. My life is something that I have earned myself. Don't pretend to be a saint in front of me. Spare my life. This is ridiculous. His eyes glowed red. Su-yi exuded a terrifying, murderous aura. Rays of blood-red light pierced through the sky. After a pause, Su-yi said in a clear voice, I'm here to marry you. I'm here to marry her. You didn't give Lu Ruashi to me. I went up the mountain and married her fair and square. Boom! In the next second, Su-yi swept his gaze across the crowd and laughed hysterically. His laughter was mixed with vitality, and it resounded in the sky. An ancient aura swept across the sky. His murderous aura and blood chi condensed. The spiritual pressure of an advanced 4th-grade soul was poured into the sound wave. Along with his laughter, it suppressed everyone. The expressions of the elders of the Holy Mountain changed. Even Yuchi Changfeng and Xiahong Lu's vitality was in chaos. They were surprised. This was not a pressure that a 1st-level Origin Ancestor martial artist could release, not to mention the people who were trembling in fear. Su-yi was strong. He was stronger than they had imagined. Su-yi's laughter stopped abruptly. His eyes were as venomous as a snake as he stared at the crowd. Now, I have 2 choices for you. Send Lu Ruashi to me, or I'll wash the Holy Mountain with blood and bring my wife down. From now on, the Holy Mountain will no longer be infamous in the Sky Barbarian world. Su-yi's deep eyes were filled with coldness. His robes and black hair fluttered in the wind. His murderous aura surged and froze the air around him. When his words spread in the air, the hearts of many Origin Ancestor martial artists and elders surged. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably. Su-yi had always been arrogant. He would do what he said. Since he dared to come alone today, he must have taken precautions. Everyone had the same thought. Today's grand competition of the Holy Mountain was going to be a disaster. Arrogant. Bastard. I swear I'm not human if I don't kill you. Too arrogant. Little brat. Do you really think that the holy mountain is afraid of you? Su, you bastard, get the hell down here. After recovering from their astonishment, the holy mountain elders began to curse loudly. Even the elders of the five holy sons faction looked at the arrogant Su in the sky with a solemn expression. So, Xiahong Lu's eyes narrowed slightly. Her gaze was unwavering as she said indifferently, "You're clearly not allowing the sacred mountain path. I won't give you a way out." Su Yi's eyes shone brightly. "You're not enough. Su Yi, we can be considered friends, so don't make things difficult for me." Xiahong Lu's eyes were moved, but there was a small ripple in the depths of her eyes. The young man in front of him had a glorious demeanor that illuminated the world. He was invincible among his peers and had an invincible demeanor. Yet, he wanted to rely on his own strength to contend against a sect that had existed for 10,000 years. This was undoubtedly the stupidest decision. "Then, will I be enough?" An extremely delicate female voice drifted down from the sky. Within the hazy golden light, a clear figure spun, and a wave of icy coldness filled the entire area. Auspicious clouds surged, and an icy blue spatial ripple formed between the clouds. The corner of Su Yi's mouth twitched inwardly. It was as if a blue crystal on the peak of a snowy mountain had drifted into the mortal world, instantly shaking the void. The extreme coldness caused everyone's soul to tremble, and a kind of soul-shaking pressure made everyone unable to breathe. Suddenly, a moon-white figure slowly descended from the icy blue crack. The light blue silk thread was engraved with the moonlight and starlight. A skirt that was open from the waist revealed the white curve of her body. A black belt was casually tied around her waist, outlining her soft and boneless waist. Her figure was graceful. This woman was simply too beautiful. She was so beautiful that any man in the world would fall for her with a single glance. Her hair was black and shiny, like a waterfall pouring down from the sky. She was graceful and charming, just like warm jade. Her eyes were bright, her eyebrows were like wisps of smoke, and her neck was elegant. Her lips were red without any lipstick, and her skin was white without any makeup. Her body was surrounded by a ribbon that fluttered with the wind. She looked like a drunken fairy. So beautiful. Who is this? How can there be such a beautiful woman in the world? I'm not dreaming, am I? Oh my God. Everyone stared at the fairy-like woman in the sky as she slowly descended. The surrounding spiritual pressure filled the air, and the fragrance overflowed. The peaks of the holy mountain were like a fairyland, intoxicating. As the woman moved gracefully, her beautiful hair fluttered behind her. Her almond-shaped eyes were cold. Looking at Su Yi standing in the void from afar, her clear eyes suddenly burst out like fireworks. Her body trembled slightly, adding to her beauty. "Xiaoman," Su Yi called out softly. When they were in the space-time mezzanine, he had hoped countless times to bring the Duanmu Qingtian back to the Duanmu Xiaoman. He had also thought countless times about what he should say when the siblings reunited, but he didn't expect that he wouldn't see it in the end. Countless people below the scene opened their mouths wide. It turned out that the beautiful woman who looked like a fairy in a painting, like a snow lotus on the mountain peak, was actually the current leader of the imperial palace, the imperial goddess. "Didn't you come back to see me first?" Duanmu Xiaoman's beautiful face was cold and beautiful, and her beautiful eyes were filled with restrained tears. Su Yi sighed bitterly and said embarrassedly, "It was too late, so before he finished speaking, Su Yi's lips were kissed by soft and tender lips. The warmth of a lotus flower dripping with water instantly enveloped Su Yi. Above the void, the skinny young man was wild and unruly, and the goddess had an extraordinary temperament, like a fairy in the heavens. The two of them complemented each other, and were a match made in heaven. "Xiaoman." Su Yi raised his sword-like eyebrows, and his eyes instantly widened. The Duanmu Xiaoman in his eyes was like a young girl who opened her heart, full of passion and captivating. The tender lips parted as soon as they touched. The Duanmu Xiaoman's figure was now even more exquisite and captivating. Her moon-like eyes flickered with a misty light. Staring at Su Yi and pursing her red lips, the Duanmu Xiaoman's snow-white lotus arms were still wrapped around Su Yi's neck. Their eyes met, and if it was anyone else, they would have long been in paradise. "Promise me, don't leave me again, okay?" Su Yi was a little absent-minded, and then he nodded. The beautiful figure in his eyes was incomparably exquisite, and his heart skipped a beat again. The originally cold woman finally opened her heart, and Su Yi listened carefully to the Duanmu Xiaoman's words. "In the past, I was always alone, and I believed that I could do everything well alone. It was you who let me know the beauty of this world, and my world is only complete with you. Su Yi, from now on, I will accompany you on any path, and I will adhere to any decision you make. The people you hate, I hate. The people you hate, I will destroy them into ashes." Chapter 1991. On Su Yi's resolute face, a pair of incomparably deep starry eyes trembled for a moment. He smiled and stretched out his arm to touch Duanmu Xiaoman's face, his eyes full of love. To have a completely new person to place his love on, this feeling was really good. "Silly mon air, with me here, you won't have to worry about me anymore. What I promised you, I will do. It's just that these people here have an irreconcilable enmity with me. Once I bring Ruashi back, I will personally destroy them and give Holy Mountain to you. Okay? Give birth to a few fat boys for me here." Duanmu Xiaoman's lips curved upwards, her nose and jade-like cheeks filled with happiness. She whispered timidly, "Yuqian Palace is enough. As long as you are here, anywhere is good." Under the thick affection, the large number of cultivators below were shocked. Yuqian Goddess was in Su Yi's arms. What kind of experience was this? Countless young cultivators were filled with heartbreak, so sad that they were about to die. Su Yi was hugging Yuqian Goddess and even wanted to marry the 9th saintess of Holy Mountain. How could these young cultivators of Central State live? How could the gap between people be so big? "Impudent, arrogant dog, you dare to tarnish my Holy Mountain's sacred ground. You must be killed. Everyone has the right to kill you. Su Yi, you won't be able to leave Holy Mountain alive today. Don't go too far. Su Yi, this old man will take your life." Not only did he want to destroy Holy Mountain, he also wanted to use Holy Mountain as his own residence. What kind of humiliation was this? One of the Holy Mountain elders finally couldn't endure it any longer. A golden light shot out from his hand, and he rushed out like a humanoid beast. Boom! Duanmu Xiaoman was nestled in Su Yi's arms, her eyes closed and her hand gently raised. There wasn't even any yuan qi fluctuation in the air. Only the sound of ice crystals exploding could be heard. A violent ice crystal storm floated down from the air, instantly freezing everyone. The Holy Mountain Elder was frozen in ice, still in a charging state. Pong! The ice crystals exploded. Blood mist filled the ice. A first-generation elder had died in front of everyone. What? Elder Shenghua's expression changed instantly. In front of a half-step Yuan Tian expert, a peak origin ancestor was as weak as a piece of trash. A monstrous pressure filled the air, and the tense atmosphere immediately calmed down. The ferocious atmosphere in front of the heavenly goddess was extremely strange. Su Yi chuckled. "Flies are noisy. You overestimate yourself." Yuqi Changfeng and Zhu Honglu retreated rapidly. Among those present, only Shenghua was the supreme elder. His fiery red robe fluttered slightly as he roared at the sky with a solemn expression. "Palace Master Duanmu, are you declaring war on the sacred mountain?" Duanmu Xiaoman opened her eyes and stood up. She looked coldly at the holy flame and said in a low voice, "So what if we start a war? Do you want to die again?" As soon as he said that, Shenghua felt a bit embarrassed. He put on a fake smile and said, "You are a half-step Yuan Tian stage cultivator. Are you here to help Su Yi steal his wife? Su Yi, aren't you afraid that you'll become a laughingstock if this gets out? You don't have the qualifications to challenge the sacred mountain, so you want the goddess to help you?" Boom! Suddenly, from the icy blue crack behind him, old figures rushed out. Their terrifying auras froze the void and fluctuated continuously. Immediately, the sacred mountain's winds and clouds surged. It was extremely terrifying. Do I have the qualifications? Old man Shenghua, do you think I have the qualifications? The 10 elders of the heavenly palace are all here. The sacred mountain has been well since we last met. Everyone's eyes trembled again. The sacred mountain's grand competition had turned into a battle between gods and demons. They lined up in a row in the void, and a vast pressure pressed down on the world. Everyone's eyes were already filled with shock to the extreme. The violent fluctuations distorted heaven and earth. Waves of powerful pressure were enough to shake mountains and rivers and tear the earth apart. Guyue, Long Pasan, Luo Wia, Nieshuangjue, and the others stood behind Duanmu Xiaoman in an orderly manner. Countless vice palace masters, Yin Lu, and the others narrowed their eyes and smiled at Su Yi. This was even bigger than the Tianfeng ranking competition. It was clear to see Su Yi's status in the heavenly palace. Elders, you're all here. Su Yi smiled and swept his gaze across the crowd. The auras of peak origin ancestors and origin ancestors were powerful. In the corner stood a man in a black robe with an oppressive aura. Su Yi's gaze met Duanmu Xiaoman's, and a knowing smile appeared on his face. Su Yi naturally knew that his grandmaster, Duanmu Qingtaon, had come as well. It's too risky, Su Yi reprimanded softly. Duanmu Xiaoman shook her head slightly and glanced at the man in the corner. She was all smiles, and the frosty expression from before was nowhere to be seen. We advance and retreat together. We live and die together. No matter how difficult it is, I'll be with you. No matter how difficult it is, I'll be with you. With a surge of emotions, Su Yi's eyes lit up, and he nodded heavily. In the corner, the man in the black robe trembled slightly and clenched his fists. He frowned and transmitted his voice using his Yuan Qi. Brat, you're pissing me off. Restrain your Yuan Qi and wait for reinforcements. The heavenly palace is here for you. Hurry up and release me. Su Yi pretended to have heard it as well, and his lips curved upwards. Everything was going according to Su Yi's plan. Just at this moment, another sharp piercing sound came from below. Su Yi and Duanmu Xiaoman quickly separated, raising their eyebrows to look at the newcomer. In an instant, the figure was like a bolt of lightning. A vast and terrifying aura filled the sky, and a piercingly cold sword light descended like a Buddha light. After standing still, Su Yi exclaimed happily, "Master!" It was actually Suruga who had rushed into the sky. Su Yi looked over and saw Gu Suxin and Mu Yao standing in the crowd. He had been competing with the sacred mountain and had neglected them. Su Quanda laughed loudly. Her small eyes were filled with pride. Looking at the couple who looked like a perfect match, she nodded her head repeatedly. Do I have the right? Elder Sacred Flame. Suruga's killing intent condensed again, and he turned to look at Sacred Flame. The grudge between Sacred Flame and Suruga had to be explained from the Sacred Martial Arts Assembly. Sacred Flame had dared to bully his disciple. In Suruga's mind, Sacred Flame was already a mortal enemy. The corner of his mouth twitched. The Yuqian Palace's army had arrived. It seemed that 10 Origin Ancestor Realm experts, a mysterious elder, and dozens of peak Origin Emperors and Origin Ancestor Realm experts were already a formidable force. The Heavenly Palace had turned out in full force for Su Yi. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. One had to know that these dozens of people were all soul controllers. Origin Domain. Sword Yama. Suruga. Suruga smiled and formed a sword with his finger. Sword Qi condensed and slashed at the void. A large spatial ripple spread out in front of him. Suruga was in high spirits. Su Yi, who was standing beside him, couldn't help but nod in praise. The Sacred Martial Arts Assembly was somewhat restrictive. How about it? Shall we fight again today? Sacred Flame flicked his sleeve and looked at the Heavenly Palace members. His cultivation was the highest here at the 7th level of the Origin Domain. Chapter 1992. Even if all the members of Jutian Palace were here, this was the Sacred Mountain, the undefeated Sacred Mountain. It seems that the Sacred Mountain and Jutian Palace will eventually fight. Although the Sacred Mountain has been without an owner for 20 years, it can't be bullied by others. None of you have the qualifications to destroy our Sacred Mountain's people and destroy our Sacred Mountain. Everyone's eyes trembled, and their hearts were in their throats. It seemed that there would be a battle today. Sacred Fire Elder, do I have the qualifications to interfere with your Sacred Mountain's affairs? Chila. The void fluctuated again, and light flashed. At the same time, a gentle and light voice came from the void, and the chaotic sacred martial hall suddenly quieted down. The gazes of the crowd, who could not accept the sudden change, trembled once again. They saw a wave surge in the sky. A faint purple figure stepped on the wave and arrived. As the wave rippled, the figure gradually solidified. It was Lan Xiaolian, a touch of light purple, wearing a light muslin coat and a graceful figure vividly outlined. Her waist-length hair slanted under her soft waist, and people couldn't help but fantasize. An invisible, transcendental temperament stunned everyone. Compared to Duanmu Xiaoman's beauty, Lan Balian was light and agile with a gentle temperament. Chila. Another sharp figure floated down from the sky, like a silver stream of light breaking through the sky. It was very mysterious. The elegant figure faced the broken sunlight, with snow and dust. Her eyes were closed, and her silver hair was tied up casually. A wisp of black hair flew in front of her forehead. She was young, but she already had the demeanor of a top powerhouse in the world. The silver sword on her back revealed an extremely sharp edge, especially her pair of crystal-clear eyes, deep and bright, as if they could see through all the evil in the world. Behind the two otherworldly women, there was a group of super powerhouses. They were all dressed in the same way, and it was obvious that they were from Sky Sea City. Sword Union's disciple, Dugu Yuma, Tianlan Fairy, Lan Balian. This time, not only the audience trembled, but even the Sacred Fire Elder and all the people of the Sacred Mountain were stunned. The fluctuations in their eyes had long changed from fear to disbelief. Both families came for Su-Yi. Situ Yoyun's eyes were full of fear. Yuqian Palace and the Sacred Mountain were on par in strength, but if the families came, it would be a change in nature. Immediately, everyone present started to keep quiet out of fear. The two beautiful figures in the sky looked at Su-Yi, full of smiles, light in their eyes. They were pleasantly surprised. After Tianfeng, they thought that they would never see each other again. When the Spirit Treasure Pavilion received the news, Dugi Yuma and Lan Balian came together. Why didn't you say anything when you came back? Lan Chonglian frowned slightly. She seemed to be blaming him. Su-Yi, you're finally back? We're worried about you. Dugi Yuma received Lan Xiaolian's words. Her sparkling and translucent eyes moved, releasing a sincere radiance. Su-Yi held Duanmu, Xiao Man's hands tightly, the corner of his mouth raised. Dugi Yuma and Lan Lilian's arrival was not within the plan. Seeing the two beauties smiling like before, he couldn't help but be moved. Thank you. Su-Yi will repay this kindness in the future. Lan Balian nodded. Dugi Yuma, who was standing beside her, was a little disappointed. Her cheeks were slightly hot, and there was an indescribable sadness in her eyes. After a few breaths, Lan Balian's gaze fell on the Sacred Fire Elder, who was already trembling. Do we have the right to interfere with the matters of the Sacred Mountain? Dugi Yuma's gaze was piercingly cold. Her clear blue eyes were like crystals emitting light. It was moving, but it was also very sharp. Her aura soared and locked onto everyone. The elders of the Sacred Mountain looked at each other, and their breathing became rapid. The situation had taken a turn for the worse. It seemed that Su-Yi was not only supported by the Yuqian Palace, but also the other families. Su-Yi said that he wanted to wash the Sacred Mountain with blood and snatch Lu Ruashi away. It didn't sound exaggerated at all. Little friend Su-Yi, can you listen to me? Everyone's eyes twitched, and an old voice with a slight tremble came from behind. Pushing aside the crowd, everyone's eyes fell on the old man in front of the sacred martial hall in an instant. Duanmu Xiongtu straightened his back, and his wrinkled eyelids moved slightly. His pressure burst out in the entire audience and immediately engulfed the world. Everyone was shocked. Yuanqi aura filled the air, and the golden light was pushed away from Duanmu Xiongtu's body. Duanmu Xiaoman couldn't help but change her expression. Peak of Yuan domain. Duanmu Xiaoman whispered, indicating Su Yi to be careful. Su Yi's heart trembled slightly. Elder Shenghua, who was at the 7th level of the origin domain realm, was already a grand elder of the sacred mountain. However, this elder looked even older than Shenghua, and his cultivation was 2 levels higher than Shenghua. Yet, he had been hiding behind Shenghua without saying a word. Su Yi couldn't help but be on guard. His sword-like eyes were cold. I am Duanmu Xiongtu, the chief elder of the sacred martial hall. Little friend Su Yi, can you listen to me for a moment? He repeated himself. Su Yi raised his eyebrows. He also had the surname Duanmu. He looked at Duanmu Xiaoman with some doubt in his eyes. Seeing that it was Duanmu Xiaoman, he shook his head slightly, indicating that he didn't know. Su Yi made a gesture of invitation. Golden light rose from Duanmu Xiongtu's feet, and he rushed into the sky like a human-shaped beast. Everyone was shocked at once. Today is the day of the Sacred Mountain Grand Tournament. Sacredness cannot be blasphemed. I have heard of the past grievances between little friend Su and the Sacred Mountain, but there is a time and place to do so. Little friend Su just gave the Sacred Mountain 2 paths, both of which are dead ends. I wonder if there's a third path? Duanmu Xiongtu glanced at Duanmu Xiaoman, and then his gaze fell on Su Yi. His eyes narrowed, tried to pry into some secrets. Su Yi gently tilted his head left and right, and his starry eyes suddenly burst out with a bright light. The vast and surging aura was like a beast coming out of its cage, and the pressure swept across the world like a flowing galaxy. Zung zung. Duanmu Xiongtu retracted his pressure. His eyes were like flames, and his face suddenly turned pale. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't try to pry anything from me. Is the sacred mountain a peeping maniac? There was a burst of low laughter. All the martial artists present were a little stunned by Su Yi's arrogance. Even a super powerhouse like Duanmu Xiongtu couldn't take advantage of Su Yi. Today's Sacred Mountain Grand Tournament could be said to be a battle between dragons and tigers. It was quite exciting. With a dry laugh, Duanmu Xiongtu quickly restrained his aura. His turbid eyes revealed a clear light. He nodded at Su Yi, and a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. Actually, I have prepared a third path. I hope Elder Duanmu won't be as stupid as some people and do stupid things that annoy people. I'm all ears. Little friend Su. Duanmu Xiongtu's wrinkled face like a vulture, and the corners of his mouth rose. Countless people's eyes focused on one point. Su Yi slowly raised his starry eyes. His deep eyes were like an ancient well without ripples, mesmerizing people. I want to enter the array. Chapter 1993. His words startled everyone present. Xiahong House's eyes darted around, and Yuchi Chongfeng flew into a rage, his gloomy face flushed red with anger. Su Yi, who do you think you are? Do you think you're worthy of entering our holy mountain's golden sky, Qianyuan array? Veins bulging on his forehead, Yuchi Chongfeng's scornful eyes locked onto Su Yi. If not for the holy fire elder holding him back, he would have already charged forward. Immediately, all the elders of the holy mountain flew into a rage, setting off another wave of anger in the air. One after another, they pointed at Su Yi's direction and cursed loudly. We've already spared your life, yet you still want to enter our holy mountain's sacred ground? Su Yi, even if you have 9 lives, it won't be enough. The holy fire elder curled his lips, his wrinkled face twitching as he looked at Su Yi. Su Yi shrugged and raised his eyebrows, extremely satisfied with the holy mountain's elder's reaction. His eyes were as deep as water, as he flicked his robe. Elder Duanmu, I've already given the Holy Mountain one last option. It would be foolish of you not to take this option. Duanmu Xiongtu's eyes flickered as he sensed the terrifying pressure emanating from Su Yi's body. This brat in front of him was ruthless and had the backing of the Imperial Heavenly Palace and two great families. He was indeed not easy to deal with. Coming back to his senses, Duanmu Xiongtu realized that Su Yi's methods were ruthless, and his strategy was profound. The previous two options were not his true intentions at all, but to pave the way for him to enter the golden sky Qianyuan array. At this point, if the Holy Mountain still did not agree to Su Yi's request, it would mean that they were blind. After pondering for a moment, Duanmu Xiongtu's eyes flickered with a trace of doubt as he asked tentatively, "Today is an important day for our Holy Mountain's grand competition. Does little friend Su Yi insist on entering the array today?" In an instant, the entire place was deathly silent. No one knew exactly what Su Yi's intentions were. Could it be that he had really come here just for Lu Ruashi? Old people have a bad memory. I forgive you. I'll say it one last time. I'm here to get married. Your Sacred Mountain tournament has nothing to do with me. I'm only taking my wife with me. After muttering to himself for a moment, Duanmu Xiongtu's aura slowly came out. The sharp starlight contained some entanglement. Duanmu Xiongtu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "I'll let you in. Elder, you can't. Duanmu Xiongtu, the Qianyuan Golden Sky Formation is the sacred land of our Holy Mountain. How can we allow outsiders to enter?" Panicked and anxious cries burst out of the Holy Flame's throat, each wave of horrified cries louder than the last. Su immediately raised his sword-like eyebrows, and the corners of his mouth rose to reveal a satisfied smile, incomparably indifferent. "This is how it should be. You have no other choice." As his faint voice fell, the eyes of the powerhouses bulged. They felt as if Su Yi had killed his entire family. Their eyes were incomparably malicious, and they could not wait to skin Su Yi alive. "Su Yi, you arrogant brat. If I don't take your life today, I, Holy Flame, am not a human." Boom! Elder Duanmu waved his hand and suppressed all the clamor and anger. His eyes narrowed, and the suppressed voice that he had been suppressing but could not do anything about was shaken out. "But I have two conditions. Little friend Su, please agree." As soon as he finished speaking, Su Yi raised his eyebrows, and a playful light flashed in his eyes. He crossed his arms in front of his chest, and his face was as cold as iron, full of arrogance. "You don't have the right to negotiate with me. However, I'm in a much better mood now. Can I listen?" Standing at the side, Duanmu Xiaomon's jade-like hand gently touched, and her eyes flickered. Su Yi gently pressed the back of her hand, revealing a bright and comforting smile. This scene was also coincidentally seen by Duanmu Xiongtu. His eyes touched Duanmu Xiaomon's body for a moment, and a faint fluctuation was unnoticeable. His clear voice reverberated in the air. "The requirements of the Qianyuan Golden Sky Array are strict. You must first be recognized by the innate holy King Qi. Therefore, the first condition is that little friend must enter the sacred martial hall to be baptized like the great holy sun and the fifth holy sun. If the baptism is not successful, it has nothing to do with my sacred mountain. The second condition is that after you enter, the matters of the grand competition will be handled by the two of them, and you cannot participate. As for whether the ninth holy daughter is willing to go with you, it is another matter. If the holy daughter does not agree, and you insist, the sacred mountain is not without foundation. Even if the holy daughter and the two noble disciples are here, the sacred mountain is not afraid." The voice was sonorous and deafening, like thunder sweeping through the world. Su Yi's mind was slightly stirred. In this mountain range filled with the holy King Qi, auspicious clouds were flowing, and the pressure was shocking. Su Yi naturally knew that the sacred mountain's 10,000 years of prestige was not just for show. As the sacred mountain that was infinitely close to the noble family's forces, the mountain guarding array was no small matter. "Kid, the array is unusual. Without the holy King Qi, even Yuan domain experts will be greatly limited by their spiritual energy. At most, they can only last for half a day. Have you thought it through? Duanmu Qingtian transmitted his voice through Yuan Qi, and the sound waves passed into Su Yi's ears like a breeze. At the same time, Duanmu Xiaoman also transmitted her voice to Su Yi. Qingtian is right. There is no need to take the risk. If you take Ruashi away, the two of us are enough. Su Yi was also thinking. His eyes swept across the audience, and countless pairs of eyes were staring at him. Low voices came from below the stage. Su Yi, can he really go in? He doesn't have the holy King Qi. I heard that the sacred mountain originally wanted him. Even though he was just an errand boy, he was still able to enter the sacred mountain. I wonder what happened after that. Today, Su Yi actually killed his way up the sacred mountain. What joke. No matter what, how can anyone who isn't from the sacred mountain casually enter the great Qian Yuan array? He's simply courting death. Duanmu Xiongtu's words instantly made Yuqi Changfeng and the elders' eyes light up. They secretly let out a sigh of relief. Yuqi Changfeng took a step forward. Evil light surged in his long and narrow eyes, and the corners of his eyes that were as cold as ice rose in pleasant surprise. Oof. Su Yi, if I let you in, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave alive. Yuqi Changfeng sneered. That's right, arrogant kid. Aren't you capable? Come, we'll let you in. Sneers, contempt, ridicule, and ridicule were vividly displayed on the faces of the Sacred Mountains people. Su Yi slowly raised his eyes, and the fine black hair on his forehead swayed faintly in the golden light. Why wouldn't I dare? I, Su Yi, will definitely enter the great Qian Yuan array. His voice was like a meteorite falling from the sky, hitting everyone's heart. The eyes of the aristocratic families and the people of the Shunjian Gate instantly turned solemn. As soon as his voice fell, Yuqi Changfeng glanced at the Holy Fire Elder, and a look of joy appeared on his face. He saw that the appreciation in Duanmu Xiongtu's eyes was even stronger as he shouted. In that case, little friend, great holy son, and fifth holy son, follow me to the sacred martial hall to receive the baptism. Boom! Duanmu Xiongtu twisted his body, and a mysterious and ancient golden aura circulated above his feet. With a wave of his sleeve, the sacred martial hall's phantom became even larger, and the surrounding void fluctuated rapidly. Chapter 1994. The Holy King Vortex was like a violent tornado. In just a short moment, heaven and earth shook. The huge building was golden and soul-stirring. It was as if there was a mysterious force leaking out from the crack of the door, making people want to drill inside. Only one person can enter the sacred martial hall baptism at a time. Those who successfully accept the baptism will have a vision from the heavens, which means that they will become a candidate for the Holy Emperor. Duanmu Xiongtu glanced at Su Yi, and his eyebrows twitched uneasily. He felt that something would happen to the kid in front of him. Whoosh! Dozens of phantoms rushed to the front of the sacred martial hall. The golden light that swept through the world caused the space to distort secretly. The gorgeous light surged in the sky. The lush green mountains shook spontaneously, the earth trembled, and the void roared. Countless majestic and terrifying winds swept in all directions. Countless mounts and demon beast souls in the distance trembled and roared to show the world. What a majestic holy king aura! Su Yi stood in the void, squinted his eyes, and shot out a beam of light. The sacred martial hall in front of him was dazzling with golden light. The phantoms occupied the sky as if there was endless energy spreading out. It was like a dormant beast waiting to wake up. What a pure metal attribute energy. Saruga and the Golden Flame Beast King also saw such a strong Holy King aura for the first time. Compared to Yuqi Changfeng and the others, the Holy King aura on his body was simply dwarfed. Whoosh! The monstrous Holy King aura suddenly swept across the world, and waves in front of him crushed everyone. Everyone present was frightened, and those with low cultivation were even trembling. The sacred aura was like a vast ocean. Su-yi quickly adjusted his energy. His hand seals condensed at lightning speed. The art of driving the heavens and the heavenly demon ancient scripture were activated at the same time. The surging sacred pressure passed through his body, but only a warm current was left. Suddenly, Su-yi raised his eyebrows. He knew in his heart that he could bear this holy king aura. Su-yi glanced at the Xiahong house, and Yuchi Changfeng from the corner of his eyes. Yuchi Changfeng and the Xiahong house's Saint Ruler Qi was already extremely thin compared to the first generation's Saint Ruler Qi. The Saint Mountain back, then, should have been extremely powerful. If the Tian Yao school had the heaven-suppressing golden stone and the heavenly wind divine sword, then wouldn't they be incomparably powerful? Such a powerful force was still destroyed. Where was the end of the martial path? Let's start. The three of you, take one step forward. Duanmu Xiongtu shouted loudly. His voice seemed to shake the sky, and the auspicious clouds in the distance flowed. The great holy sun and the fifth holy sun had already turned into golden light and arrived in front of the sacred martial hall. Su-yi was not willing to fall behind. He used the Fuyao 100 transformation steps, and his figure turned into a storm as he rushed to the front of the sacred martial hall. Boom! Su-yi rose and fell like a giant golden bird. It was too much for the eyes to take in, including Lan Yelyin and Dugi Yuma. So fast, Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes lit up. She then looked at the black robe behind her and couldn't help but smile. It was all thanks to Duanmu Qingtian that Su-yi could break through to the origin ancestor realm and have such a shocking speed. Sister, don't worry. This kid has even experienced a space-time storm. At most, the Saint Ruler's Qi won't react. Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes were still filled with concern. She clenched her slender fingers slightly and whispered, "How can I not be worried? After this, all of you will follow me back to the Imperial Palace. Your injuries are very serious. If it weren't for the support of the Origin Domain realm, your spirit would have been destroyed." Under the black robe, Duanmu Qingtian's eyes trembled. He couldn't help but be filled with murderous intent when he thought of the past pursuit. The Sacred Mountain and the Sky Dragon sect are both vassals of the Long family. Today, we will follow Su-yi's wishes. The Sacred Mountain will be destroyed if I give him some time. Duanmu Xiaoman whispered. At this time, who would have thought that there were half-step Yuan Tian realm and Origin Sky realm cultivators chatting on the field? Everyone's eyes were already on the three figures in front of the sacred martial hall. Yuchi Changfeng snorted and looked at the golden light in the sky. The sacred martial hall was like an ancient god looking down on the world. Su-yi, if you can't accept the baptism of the Saint Ruler's Qi, you can go back to where you came from. Don't delay my Sacred Mountain tournament. Xiahong Lu and Su-yi's eyes narrowed at the same time. Xiahong Lu shook her head gently, and Su-yi's mouth was even colder. Speak more if you can. Don't delay my entry. Yuchi Changfeng shook his robe, and the emerald ring flashed with golden light. A trace of coldness flashed in his demonic eyes as he said fiercely, "It's useless to talk fast. If you have the ability, I'll wait for you in the Qianyuan Golden Sky Array." As soon as his voice fell, the door of the sacred martial hall opened, and an ancient aura rushed out. Yuchi Changfeng's cold eyes cut through the two, and his eyes were obscure and vicious. Sacred Fire Elder? Somehow, the Sacred Fire Elder came to Duanmu Xiongtu's side. Duanmu Xiongtu fixed his eyes on the sacred martial hall. The moment Yuchi Changfeng entered, the surrounding clouds moved, and a golden halo flowed in the sky like a mad dragon. The innate Saint King's aura is left by the first Saint Emperor. It is extremely pure. Since the whereabouts of the Imperial Emperor's sword were unknown, this is the only inheritance point of the Sacred Mountain. Even the great saint may not be able to succeed in the baptism, Duanmu Xiongtu said faintly. The corners of the Sacred Flame Elder's withered mouth twitched slightly. A crafty light flickered and landed on Su-yi's body as he chuckled. No one but the great saint can. Oh, Duanmu Xiongtu didn't know why the Sacred Fire Elder was so confident. When he was about to ask in detail, a golden light burst out from the sacred martial hall. Boom! A huge golden light column spun into the sky, and the brilliant golden brilliance pushed the auspicious clouds away. Immediately, it crossed the void like a long golden thunderbolt, like a dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry. The aura was vigorous like a stampede of 10,000 beasts. The sacred light fell on the sacred martial hall, looking down on 10,000 creatures in the world. The domineering and oppressive aura made everyone tremble and want to crawl. This old man is right. The Sacred Fire Elder's eyes were proud, and he looked at Su Yi and Xiahong House as if he was demonstrating. Duanmu Xiongtu's long eyebrows knitted together, and when he looked at the sacred fire again, his figure had already drifted to the sacred martial hall. A burst of wild laughter broke out in the sacred martial hall, and the undisguised arrogance surged with Yuqi Chongfeng's flight. Yuqi Chongfeng's aura surrounded his body like layers of waves. His face was flushed, and the laughter in his eyes was completely unscrupulous. Congratulations to the great saint. You are our sacred mountain's chosen saint. The Sacred Fire Elder half knelt on the ground, and the following elders also cheered like a tsunami. Yuqi Chongfeng raised the corner of his mouth and looked at Xiahong House and Su Yi, enjoying the absolute dignity and supreme glory. Xiahong House, Su Yi, go in if you have the ability. A bastard, a fake, and you still want to compete with me. Chapter 1995. Duanmu Xiongtu shouted as soon as his words fell. The audience was even more frightened. Countless dignified eyes looked at Su Yi and Xiahong House. Could both of them successfully enter the array? Although Yuqi Chongfeng's words were harsh, it was also the truth. One had never been nourished by the Holy King aura. The other was not only not a member of the Holy Mountain, but also an enemy. If they couldn't enter, the Holy Mountain tournament would only belong to Yuqi Chongfeng. No wonder Yuqi Chongfeng was so excited. It could be said that the Holy Mountain tournament was already a one-man show for the great Holy Sun. Her resentment and hatred were vented at this moment. Xiahong House glanced faintly at Su Yi beside her. Her eyes were like thousands of stars, deep and profound. I want to see you in the array. I'll go in first. Xiahong House whispered as if she was issuing a challenge. Halala. Xiahong House made a hand seal at lightning speed. The vitality around her surged violently, and golden light sprinkled from the peaks of the mountains. In the vast sky, the sacred martial hall was densely covered with divine clouds. The sound of wind and thunder turned into rolling sound waves that rolled endlessly. From afar, it looked like divine chains were intertwined. The ancient aura seemed to have crossed time and space, as if it had returned to ancient times. Standing in front of the sacred martial hall, Yuqi Chongfeng was secretly shocked. There was a flicker of light in his magnificent eyes. Then, everyone present held their breaths. Their eyes were fixed for fear of missing something. In less than half a breath, an even louder roar resounded through the world. In the next second, it could cover all the sound waves. Soon, under the shocked gaze of the audience, a holy king-like phantom appeared in the sky above the sacred martial hall. In an instant, everyone's eyes were as wide as copper bells. The elders, martial artists, and powerhouses present began to tremble to varying degrees. That's the phantom of the Holy King. Duanmu Xiongtu's dazzling eyes were filled with unparalleled shock. At the same time, Yuqi Chongfeng, the Holy Fire Elder, and the others all looked at the heavens and earth in disbelief. Under everyone's gazes, endless dazzling golden light exploded in the heavens and earth. The Holy King's phantom exuded a terrifying chi. His eyes were tightly closed, and the holy light illuminated the world. It was as if a god had crossed through the immemorial world. All living creatures were like ants in front of him. The scene in front of them was completely sensational. The golden light was pervasive, almost drowning the entire sacred martial hall and holy mountain. Oh my God, it's the Saint King. He's the god of our holy mountain. The fifth saint is the true saint chosen by the heavens. There's no doubt about it. My soul hurts. Is this the absolute suppression of a saint king? Everyone's eyes were dazed as they stared blankly at the sage king's phenomenon in the sky. The auspicious clouds had long been dispersed by the fluctuations, and under the clear sky, the golden light shook the world. Pooh! Everyone's heart seemed to have stopped beating, and they found it difficult to breathe. Not only the guests of the holy mountain, but even the elders of the holy mountain's fifth holy child, and the great holy child's elders all knelt on the ground with reverence on their faces. Oh, after the Saint King's phantom descended, the demonic beasts crawled in the winding mountains. Low roars resounded throughout the universe, and even more barbaric demonic beasts crawled on the ground and trembled. At this time, the momentum of the entire holy mountain had reached its peak. Shock, horror, and astonishment appeared on everyone's face. Why is the Saint King aura of the Xiahong house so vigorous in the sacred martial hall? Su Yi's eyes trembled slightly. Even with his powerful soul, he also felt an incomparably powerful suppression. After looking at it for a long time, there was a feeling of trembling submission, let alone the others. The phantom was like a dream, occupying half of the sky. The dense halo didn't disperse for a long time. Everyone present stuck their bodies tightly to the ground, not daring to raise their heads. Hula. After circulating the art of controlling heaven, the mysterious light cluster in Su Yi's mind also throbbed a little. The mighty and vigorous soul pressure invaded his body, and his meridians, flesh, and blood swelled in an instant. It was only after a few breaths that he got better. The Saint King aura of the Xiahong house is even purer than Yuqi Chongfeng's. It seems that the Xiahong house's rapid improvement in cultivation isn't without reason. His gaze fell on Yuqi Chongfeng, who was still in a daze. His two abyss-like, pitch-black eyes emitted a luster. Surrounded by fiery red light, the specks of starlight expelled all the Saint King aura. Su Yi's expression returned to normal. After returning from the Chaos region, the Xiahong house had been in seclusion except for participating in the Tianfeng ranking tournament. From the 4th level of the Origin Emperor realm to the 8th level of the Origin Emperor realm, Su Yi had never let down his guard against the Xiahong house. How can a good-for-nothing be able to cultivate to the 8th level of the Origin Emperor realm with his own strength? Su Yi's throat moved, and his sneer was like a bunch of long arrows shooting at Yuqi Chongfeng's back. Yuqi Chongfeng's body quivered, and he came back to his senses. His face was pale, and he raised his head. The phantom of the Saint King gradually rose and dissipated like a bubble. The spiritual energy in the clouds was tumbling, and the immortal beasts were hissing. It was a scene of the mortal realm. Swish! Another tempest swept through the sky as Xiahong Pavilion's figure drifted out like a bolt of lightning. At the instant she descended to the ground, her eyes that were like 2 stars flickered with bright lights, and she actually faintly revealed an unusual, imposing aura. His back was straight, and his yellow robe fluttered in the wind. The side of his face that reached his temples was cold and proud, as if it had been carved by a knife. Xiahong Lu's eyes were cold and gloomy. He glanced indifferently at Yuqi Chongfeng and then walked forward. The moment they brushed past each other, Yuqi Chongfeng came back to his senses as if he had been electrocuted. His eyes were extremely malicious, and flames were raging in his fiery eyes. What kind of scheme did you use? Impossible. How can your Saint King aura be purer than mine? His handsome face was cold, and a majestic aura was born. The Xiahong house didn't stop walking. His eyes were bright like a deep abyss as he spoke coldly. Su Yi is right. It's my shame to have you as my opponent on the path of the Saint Emperor. His figure was like lightning, and he quickly returned to the formation. The group of elders looked at the Xiahong house like gods, and they were extremely excited. Their wrinkled old faces were full of smiles. Su Yi, going quickly. Remember what I said. My opponent is you. Seeing that the Xiahong house didn't treat him as an opponent, Yuchi Changfeng's face instantly turned green and red. His face was inexplicably ferocious and livid. It was impossible to withstand the baptism of the innate Saint King aura without the purest Saint King aura. Yuchi Changfeng sized up the emerald ring in his hand, and his eyes trembled fiercely as he glared at the Holy Fire Elder beside him. Suddenly, the Holy Fire Elder's face was filled with doubt and fear. He shook his head without leaving a trace, and his eyes were filled with resentment. He lowered his voice and said, "It can't be wrong. We'll verify it after the first saint enters the formation." Chapter 1996. At this moment, everyone gradually came back to their senses. Under Duanmu Xiongtu's instructions, the only focus of the audience once again fell on Su Yi. A young man who had a blood feud with the Holy Mountain actually came to accept the baptism of the innate Holy King aura. Was this a joke? Everyone's face was full of doubts, indifference, and even sarcasm. Duanmu Xiongtu walked in front of everyone and looked at Su Yi. "I'll remind you for the last time. The innate Holy King aura is different from the Golden Sky Array. The strong and fierce innate aura is enough to destroy a martial artist without the Holy King aura immediately. Little friend Su, go in if you're ready." Su Yi took a deep breath and stretched lazily. A trace of coldness appeared in his unfocused eyes. Then, he gently shook Duanmu Xiaoman's hand and turned into a ray of light, rushing to the sacred martial hall. "Su Yi, you must keep your life. If you can't come out, it won't be fun." Yuchi Changfeng, who was still standing in place, no longer looked at Xiahong House with a gloomy face. Xiahong House was originally a member of the Holy Mountain. As long as Su Yi, this bastard, failed the baptism, the Holy Mountain tournament could still proceed according to plan. Su Yi, who was in the air, jumped over Yuchi Changfeng's head and revealed a trace of coldness from between his teeth. "Then open your eyes and watch carefully," Su Yi sneered. In the next second, Su Yi rushed into the sacred martial hall. Suddenly, an overwhelming golden light filled the sky. Su Yi's body was quickly wrapped in an ancient charm. Soon, Su Yi's soul was immersed in it. Buzz! In the sacred martial hall, there were dozens of pillars hanging in all directions. They were so high that the top couldn't be seen. From north to south, 6 winding and 18 winding paths were formed according to the terrain, as if they were centrifugal. 6 simple and remote paths that were paved with golden light were winding, quiet, and divine. They were suffused with golden light and converged all the way to the center like 100 rivers flowing into the sea. In the middle of the room, there was a box made of stone that was half the height of a person. It was shining with an ancient golden light. The surrounding air was cold and quiet. The commotion outside was already far away, so quiet that one could only hear their own breathing. When Su Yi gradually opened his eyes, he could feel an immense pressure pressing down on him. His meridians were blocked as his yuan qi gradually froze. His skin and flesh swelled up like balloons. Immediately, his heart turned serious as he rapidly circulated the heavenly, fey, ancient sutra. Following the heaven-riding arts route, his yuan qi flowed like a trickle through his wide meridians. Starlight surged and resonated with the golden light hanging from the sky. The whole world was filled with brilliant lights and brilliant colors. What a strong pressure! Qi Fei Hong's breathing gradually quickened, and his wrinkled skin moved slightly. It was obvious that he was not used to the environment in front of him. The Iron Soulfish was also feeling uncomfortable. The Iron Soulfish was seriously injured and had reverted to the Demon Grandmaster realm. Even though he was in the entrance, the pressure from the outside world was not any better than him. The suffocating pressure enveloped Su Yi. The terrifying pressure was like a rolling wave, fluctuating endlessly. Su Yi's eyes flashed with a trace of determination as he walked towards the stone box in the center with heavy steps. Clang, clang, clang. With every step Su-yi took, the blood in his body would boil, his soul would shake, and his heart would tremble along with it, followed by a jolt of pain. Seeing Su-yi getting closer and closer to the stone box, Chi Feihong's lips trembled. Only a body and soul like Su-yi's can reach this step without relying on the sage monarch aura. Gritting his teeth and drumming up his strength, it was as if he had returned to the space-time storm. After being baptized by the storm, Su-yi's flesh and blood had reached a new level. Even if his veins were bulging, his flesh was swelling, and his blood was gushing like magma. These are no big deal to Su-yi. The blazing red heavenly origin demon soul shone in his heart like a small sun. The closer he got to the stone box, the heavier the pressure on his soul, and the more he could feel the fear of his soul being extracted. Time slipped by like quicksand. Su-yi had been in the sacred martial hall for half an hour. When the last step was completed, Su-yi looked at the ordinary stone box and shouted with a hoarse throat, "Open!" In a split second, his pupils bulged, and a surging golden light descended from the sky like the chanting of gods and demons. The sound of wind and thunder, and the ancient sound of sacrifice sounded from afar. The supreme heavenly might, like a towering tree, suddenly came crashing down, and the stone box suddenly opened with a squeak. The golden light was dazzling, and the pressure was awe-inspiring. The terrifying power instantly overturned the entire dome, and the light that was enough to destroy everything enveloped Su-yi. The depths of Su-yi's soul suddenly throbbed incessantly. In the blazing aura, there were lights and shadows flying, thousands of beasts galloping, the flames of war drifting, and blood flowing. Hundreds of experts beyond human imagination were fighting in the sky, and the light was shaking, setting off monstrous waves, and a sacred aura filled the sky. "Wake up, Su-yi. You have entered an illusion." The iron soulfish was also uncomfortable and shouted loudly with a pale face. Su-yi's gaze was unfocused, and his heart was beating rapidly. He only cared about sinking into the wondrous scene in front of him. The mysterious power was vast and mighty in the void, and it spread out in all directions. The iron soulfish's voice drifted further and further away. Su-yi could hear it, but he couldn't wake up, and his pupils gradually lost their luster. Suddenly, an extremely clear and moving voice, like a drop of spring water, seeped into Su-yi's heart. "Big brother, this light is so comfortable." Ping Air rubbed her eyes, and as if she had just woken up from a dream, she yawned towards the sky and spoke softly. Her voice was pleasant to the ear, but it was like the sound of the heavens, and it immediately pulled Su-yi back from the apocalyptic battle of gods and demons. When Su-yi collected his thoughts, his gaze became solemn. The blood demon killing god sword was already wrapped in the stone box, and the golden light was dazzling. The golden light was like a flood that struck the sword. The blood-red sword pattern flowed, and Ping Air's cute face flashed on the pitch-black sword, revealing a faint smile. "Big brother, come chase me." Bang! Yuwa! The stone box closed, and the blood demon killing god sword was covered. Ping Air's shrill cry shook the sky, and Su-yi's expression abruptly changed. "What's wrong?" "Ping Air!" Su-yi roared. More than an hour had passed since Su-yi entered. In front of the sacred martial palace, the corner of Yuchi Chongfeng's mouth was slightly raised, and he didn't hide his pride at all. "Great! Su-yi is finally dead." He overestimated himself. Ha ha ha! His arrogant laughter displeased the aristocratic families and the heavenly rider palace. Duanmu Xiaoman's pretty face turned cold, and her eyes were filled with frost. "We should have let him carry the soul-chasing stone," Duanmu Xiaoman muttered in a low voice. Duanmu Qingtian saw this and also frowned. "Oh my god, everyone look! What is that?" Chapter 1997. All of a sudden, an elder of the holy mountain pointed to the sky and roared. The crowd, who had lost all hope, instantly looked up at the sky. Their hair stood on end, and their faces froze on the spot. Boom! Under the magnificent sky, 6 golden lights soared into the sky. Amidst the thunderous roar, a Holy King statue that was slightly smaller than the Holy King's phantom but more solid appeared in the sky and soared into the sky. Along the way, the sacred light drifted, and the auspicious clouds turned into water vapor in an instant. In the dense mist, the Holy King opened his eyes. Golden light burst out, accompanied by a mysterious power, enveloping the entire holy mountain. Suddenly, the golden light was like fireworks, filling the sky. Everything in the thousands of peaks was dyed golden. Except for the Siahong house. Everyone in the holy mountain, including the guests, involuntarily knelt under the shocked gaze. The invisible pressure was fierce, surging like a storm. The true body of the Holy King of the 6 paths. He can actually draw out the true face of the Holy King. Duanmu Xiongtu could no longer hide the shock in his eyes. He looked at the huge, solid, true body in the sky with horror. Rumor had it that the sacred martial hall had the innate Holy King aura arranged by the first Holy Emperor. The first Holy Emperor was also the only man in the Holy Mountain who was called the Holy King. A chill crept up the backs of the seated people. Their mouths were wide open. The Holy Fire Elder and Yuchi Chongfeng crawled on the ground. Their kneeling legs were trembling, and they could not move at all. Oh my God! Is this the true face of the Holy King aura? A Holy Mountain Elder, who was already in the Yuan domain realm, approached the sacred martial hall. His eyes were wide open and flashed with disbelief. My head hurts so much. My soul has been taken away. The huge golden body filled the entire place. The surging vitality was like a storm. 2 bright eyes like the sun suppressed the world. No one was spared. In just a short moment, hundreds and thousands of people were crawling in front of the vast sacred martial hall, not to mention the people watching the Holy Mountain tournament from the other peaks. In the panic-stricken Holy Mountain, millions of people bowed their heads and kowtowed to the true face of the Holy King in the sky. Their faces were solemn, as if they were worshiping a god. All living beings prostrated themselves before the Sage King. Auspicious beasts flew in the air, spirit birds screeched, and golden light shone for thousands of miles. The vast, surging golden light fluctuated continuously. The Saint King's huge divine body sat diagonally in front of the hall, overlooking the entire world. Rumble. In just an extremely short period of time, the hazy, illusory figure caused the surroundings to be filled with endless waves. Block it! Guyue ordered as Yuan Qi surged in his body. Standing high up in the air, the Yuqian Palace and the aristocratic families worked together to form a huge halo, blocking the holy light of the 6 paths Saint Kings. Lan Yelyan, Dugimon, Suga, Long Pashan, and the others were all frightened out of their wits. In the face of such an overwhelming divine aura, their faces changed drastically. Sui, well done. You did it. Duanmu Xiaoman, whose face had turned slightly red due to the activation of her primal qi, frowned slightly and whispered to herself, Sister, you can finally rest assured. Duanmu Qingtian raised his eyebrows and heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the Sage King's true body not far away, he was equally shocked. In an instant, Duanmu Qingtian's eyebrows twitched as doubts arose. He whispered, Strange, I know this kid best. He doesn't have any metal attribute Yuan Qi, let alone the Sage King's aura. How can there be such a big reaction? Hearing this, Duanmu Xiaoman nodded suspiciously. She continued to release icy blue primal qi from her hand, but a figure in front of the sacred martial hall attracted her attention. The snow-red house also resisted the Sage King's aura. He didn't kneel. Duanmu Qingtian was in the black cover, and he pondered for a long time. This kid is indeed extraordinary. Fortunately, he has no grudges with Su Yi. I can't see a trace of emotion in his body. It's like a stone. After dozens of breaths, the golden light in a large space of the sacred martial hall slowly dissipated. After the sudden golden light disappeared, the phantom on top of the sacred martial hall also began to disappear. Everything returned to calm. Everyone still maintained their kneeling posture, not daring to show the slightest disrespect. Amidst the golden light, Su-Yi slowly floated out of the physical, sacred martial hall. He gazed at the time, and a trace of domineering aura emerged out of nowhere. And the blood demon killing godsword had also been kept by Su-Yi into the space bag. Looking down, Yuchi Changfeng was still kneeling. Su-Yi withdrew his primal chi, smiled, and said with a straight face, "I know you admire me, but you don't have to be so polite. Everyone rise." As soon as his voice fell, the sacred martial hall's lineup raised their heads. In their hazy pupils, Su-Yi put his hands on his hips like a superior, and the corner of his mouth raised a trace of contempt. Boom! Standing up quickly, Yuchi Changfeng actually knelt in front of Su-Yi. And not only Yuchi Changfeng, but even the Sacred Fire Elder and a group of Sacred Martial Hall's powerhouses and elders knelt down respectfully. "Damn it, Su-Yi, you bastard!" Yuchi Changfeng's face was blue and red. His face was instantly covered with excrement, and it was extremely ugly. Looking at Su-Yi's triumphant look, he immediately pushed his hands horizontally, and his body moved backward. A golden dragon-shaped light shot out. The wind along the way shattered, and a roar sounded. The space rippled like waves, whistling towards Su-Yi in the air. Yuchi Changfeng's eyes were gloomy. Su-Yi had already come out smoothly, and he had also drawn out the true body of the Six Paths Holy King. Entering the large array was not a problem at all. Humiliation and resentment made Yuchi Changfeng angry in an instant. "Go to hell. You can go to hell for me. I'm going to kill you. Kill you." Bang! Before Su-Yi could move, a huge golden light swept across the sky like a blade, cutting off Yuchi Changfeng's golden dragon-shaped light. Suddenly, a sonic boom sounded in the sky, and light rain fell. Countless fragments shook their eyes, and the shock wave pushed everyone back several feet. The newcomer was none other than Duanmu Xiongtu. Duanmu Xiongtu was furious, and he shouted fiercely, "Yuchi, what are you doing?" Sacred fire also came to Yuchi Changfeng's side in an instant, and he stopped Yuchi Changfeng. He said sternly, "Elder Duanmu, are you siding with an outsider? Why are you helping this bastard?" Duanmu Xiongtu waved his sleeves, and light flickered in his eyes. He said angrily, "Can this bastard trigger the true body of the Holy King?" The confrontation between Duanmu Xiongtu and Shenghua caught everyone off guard. Their mouths were agape, and they did not know what to do. "Elder Duanmu, Su-Yi is not a disciple of our sacred mountain, but he can accept the baptism of the Holy King's aura. Is there nothing fishy about this?" Duanmu Xiongtu lowered his eyes, and the horror in his eyes had not faded. He walked to Su-Yi's side and looked at Su-Yi from head to toe. "If there is something fishy, how can he enter the sacred martial hall? You have personally experienced the baptism in the sacred martial hall." Chapter 1998. Indeed, in the sacred martial hall, one had to walk for a while to reach the central stone box. Without the blessing of the Saint Monarch aura, it was impossible to walk. Yuchi Changfeng and the Holy Fire Elder looked at each other and said with strange eyes, "Su-Yi, then tell me, how did you get baptized without the Saint Monarch aura?" Hearing this, Duanmu Xiongtu also looked at Su-Yi with respect. Su-Yi was the only one who could trigger the true body of the Saint Monarch aura in 10,000 years. The chosen one was undoubtedly Su-Yi. "Little friend Su, you have never had the Saint Monarch aura. How could you get baptized?" Duanmu Xiongtu was puzzled. I think you were playing tricks." Yuchi Changfeng said coldly. It was obvious that the sacred mountain didn't want to admit it. Su-Yi frowned gradually, and killing intent rose in his eyes as he looked at Duanmu Xiongtu. "Do I need to explain to you? I have accepted your request. The next step is to open the Golden Sky Array. TSK. A group of sacred mountain powerhouses stepped forward, and Yuchi Changfeng said coldly, "Kid, if you don't explain it clearly today, don't think about going anywhere." Ha ha ha. The madness in his eyes grew, and a bold laughter burst out from Su Yi's throat. Su Yi looked up to the sky and laughed. The sacred mountain is really a bunch of untrustworthy pigs and dogs. Massacring all of you is a light punishment. You reap what you sow. Bang! Duanmu Xiongtu's heart skipped a beat. He looked at the sky and saw that the heavenly palace and the aristocratic families were ready to attack. He waved his hand, and a golden light split the ground of the sacred martial hall, blocking Yuchi Changfeng and the others. Little friend Su Yi, please enter the array. The sacred mountain keeps its word. Yuchi Changfeng and the Holy Fire Elder were furious, and Duanmu Xiongtu said coldly, "Yuchi, don't embarrass the sacred mountain. If you can trigger the true body of the Saint Monarch aura, the sacred mountain will recognize you as its master. Also, don't think that others don't know some things." Buzz, Sacred Flame, who was standing to the side, immediately froze and motioned for Yuchi to stop talking. Duanmu Xiongtu had an indescribable admiration for this mysterious young man in front of him. Duanmu Xiongtu's eyes flickered as he glared at Yuchi Changfeng like an osprey. Su Yi smiled embarrassedly. Seeing Yuchi Changfeng deflated, Su Yi suddenly felt happy in his heart. His gaze shifted upwards with a look as cold as water. Su Yi doesn't have any external force. I used my soul pressure to probe him at the beginning. Other than that, what other problems do you think there are? Duanmu Xiongtu snorted softly. His sharp gaze swept across the hall. Apart from Yuchi Changfeng and the Sacred Fire Elder, the expressions of the other elders had changed. A person who could summon the true face of the 6 Dao Holy Kings was destined to be with the Sacred Mountain. The Sacred Fire Elder's bark-like face twitched slightly as he looked at Yuchi Changfeng with a frown. I can testify for him. A clear and cold voice came from behind. Xiahong Lu was still as cold as before. She glared at Yuchi Changfeng and announced to the crowd, "You said that I am not under the Sacred Mountain's rule, but I can also summon the innate holy King Qi. Why can't Su Yi do the same?" This was the first time he heard Su Yi speaking for himself. He immediately thought highly of Xiahong Lu. He raised his eyebrows and saw Xiahong Lu bowing before Duanmu Xiongtu. "Elder Duanmu, please start the sacred martial grand competition quickly. Su Yi is not a person who goes back on his words. I believe in him. Good. 5th Saint is magnanimous. This old man is impressed." Duanmu Xiongtu's lips curled up slightly. In this awkward situation, Xiahong Lu had undoubtedly given everyone a way out. "I'll be waiting for you in the array." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a golden light suddenly appeared in the sky. A demonic green light filled the void. Yuchi Changfeng was already standing on the peak of the mountain. He turned around, his demonic eyes emitting a demonic light. Seems like someone can't wait any longer. Duanmu Xiongtu's dry eyes flashed, and he looked at Su Yi and Xiahong Lu. "You guys go too. The Saint Venerable and the 9th Saint Lady will be too late. Little friend Su, you promise me that you will not meddle in the Sacred Mountain's grand competition." With a gentle wave of his hand, Duanmu Xiongtu shot out a golden ray from his wide sleeves. The ray whistled like a dragon and headed straight for a rock in the northwest mountain. Pung! A golden ray shot up to the sky. In an instant, the auspicious clouds in the surroundings piled up rapidly. Layer after layer, mysterious and unfathomable runes gushed out. Under the abstruse golden light, the profound energy split the entire mountain peak into two. From the split mountain peak, a divine aura shot up to the sky. Countless people's faces were stained with a layer of mysterious golden light. Qi-la, outside the halo, the surging yuan qi was like a storm. The mountain peak began to tremble involuntarily. Immediately, all the elders under the 5th Saint and the Great Saint soared into the sky and shouted at the same time. In an instant, The saint ruler chi that blotted out the sky condensed into a huge stream of light that shot towards the hazy halo. Qian Yuan Golden Sky Formation. This is the Sacred Mountain's protective formation. Everyone's hearts trembled. Even Duanmu Xiaoman's beautiful brows twitched slightly. A formation that required dozens of peak origin ancestor experts, and even Yuan domain experts, to open could only be imagined how terrifying the energy inside was. Xiahong Lu and Su Yi looked at each other. Seeing that Yuqi Changfeng had already entered, they took to the air at the same time and charged toward the Golden Sky Formation like ferocious beasts in human form. Along the way, the people of the Sacred Mountain, Situ Luyun, Lu Zhengyuan, and the guests all had looks of disbelief on their faces. No one had thought that Su Yi could enter the Golden Sky Formation. Will Ruashi go with Su Yi? Lu Zhengyuan's gaze fluctuated as he stood rooted to the ground. Some of the experts of the Sacred Mountain, who had originally scoffed at Su Yi and even wanted to kill him, now had faces as red as pig's liver. Especially when their gazes met with Su Yi's, they all looked away awkwardly. Actually, other than being a little arrogant, this kid is really the number one person of his generation. Yes, the more I look at him, the more I like him. It's all that bastard Wang Chuanda's fault for saying that he had the qualifications to be his servant. Is this the qualifications to be his servant? The Sacred Master is wise. Even if he had to fall out with the Sacred Fire Elder, he still has to be on good terms with him in the Tianfeng battle. This kid, I really want him to enter the Sacred Mountain. A one-sided argument gradually sounded from below. After the baptism, the experts of the Sacred Mountain were somewhat depressed. How did such a powerful youth become the mortal enemy of the Sacred Mountain? Bathing the Sacred Mountain in blood, for someone who could trigger the true appearance of the 6 Saint Kings. Everyone knew in their hearts that this was not an exaggeration. In the air, the speed of the two figures was about the same. When they were in the air, Duanmu Xiaoman also turned into an icy blue phantom and broke through the air. Su Yi instantly stopped in his tracks, glanced at Xiahong House, and then said coldly, "I'll wait for you at the entrance of the formation." Nodding, Su Yi's lips curled into a smile as he said in a low voice, "Are you worried about me? Give me your hand." Duanmu Xiaoman's face was slightly flushed, her beautiful eyelashes fluttering, and an ice awl appeared in her hand, lightly cutting the hand that was holding Su Yi's. Below, in the surrounding mountains, over 1 million disciples of the Sacred Mountain were watching with burning eyes, not knowing what Duanmu Xiaoman was going to do. On the other hand, the group of young cultivators' faces were extremely ugly, but when they thought of Su Yi's strength, they were instantly discouraged. "What are you doing?" Su Yi watched as a drop of blood fell on Duanmu Xiaoman's palm and spread out. Chapter 1999. The blood that gradually spread out on her palm was tender and tender, like a red lotus in full bloom. It was bewitching and blazing, releasing an extremely bright light. Duanmu Xiaoman placed a triangular source stone in her left palm with her right hand. She used a bit of her right hand's energy, and a drop of blood dripped from her right hand's fingertip. Boom! The red bead on her fingertip landed on the source stone, and a red lotus came out of the source stone and spun in the air, dazzling and blazing. Looking at the fiery red lotus, Duanmu Xiaoman gently clenched her hand and covered Su Yi's left hand with the red lotus. A warm current flowed into Su Yi's meridians. Immediately, Su Yi's expression froze, and he was a little surprised. Chuckling, the corners of her mouth curled up, like the wind returning to the snow. With a sweet smile, Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes were full of love for Su Yi. "Su Yi, this is the soul-chasing stone of Juqian Palace. The red lotus symbolizes the fire of life. After you go in, I will know your safety at any time. I didn't have time to form a red lotus soul contract with you before, but this time, I finally have the chance." Hearing this, Su Yi couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. Duanmu Xiaoman's face blushed. At this moment, she had completely given her heart to him. He tightly held Duanmu Xiaomon's white, jade-like hand and licked his dry lips. He smiled and said, "Wait for me to come back. Let's go home." Boom! In the next second, the energy under Su Yi's feet surged again, and he instantly disappeared in front of Duanmu Xiaomon's eyes. When he looked again, Su Yi and Zhonglu had already arrived at the entrance of the Golden Sky Great Formation. Wind and thunder surged, and the arcs of light that flickered with vast energy made Su Yi's face appear even more lustrous. His resolute and profound face trembled slightly. Then he smiled and rushed into the Golden Sky Array in an instant. He went in. Su Yi really went in. Who would have thought? Su Yi can really go in. Sita Luyun looked at the disappearing figure with a dazed expression, full of disbelief. Lu Zongyuan was even more stunned where he was. His trembling eyes fluctuated continuously, surging with waves as he muttered, "Am I wrong or am I not? Was it wrong to send Ruashi to the Holy Mountain?" At this time, a rather heavy palm landed on Lu Zongyuan's shoulder. Turning her head, there was a smile at the corner of Sita Luyun's eyes. "Trust the ninth holy maiden. Her decision will never be wrong." After being dazed for half a breath, Lu Zongyuan let out a long sigh. Waving his hands, he bitterly smiled. "I can't control it. I can't control it. As a father, I will support it." "That's right." The two looked at each other and smiled. Lu Zongyuan looked at the flowing light and the whistling wind of the Golden Formation. He could not help but secretly nod his head, a look of anticipation in his eyes. Qinyuan Golden Sky Array. After Yuchi Changfeng entered first, Su Yi and Xiahong Lu arrived. As soon as they landed, Su Yi could feel that within this incomparably huge mountain range, the metal attribute was extremely rich. It was indeed worthy of being called the Great Protective Formation of the Holy Mountain. "How were you able to withstand the baptism?" Xiahong Lu stood beside him, a puzzled look on his face. His sculpture-like face revealed a look of astonishment. So Xiahong Lu did not know anything. Su Yi smiled, saying lightly, "You don't know anything, but you are helping me testify. I only know that you will definitely not play any tricks. I did not think too much about other things." Xiahong Lu shook his head. Sizing up Xiahong Lu, this man who had crossed swords with him several times and was not at a disadvantage, was also somewhat sincere. He immediately lowered his head. "If you are not from the Holy Mountain, perhaps we can become very good friends. If you are from the Holy Mountain, perhaps we can become very good friends." Xiahong Lu placed his hands behind his back, dark and deep light blossoming. The corner of Su Yi's mouth twitched. He waved his hand and looked at the auspicious clouds floating in the sky. The vast and boundless mountain range was verdant and lush, faintly emitting a golden light. He asked softly, "Where can I find Ruashi? The Saint King Chi that I cultivate is not the same as that of the 9 holy girls. I can only rely on my familiarity with the terrain of the Holy Mountain to find Lu Ruashi. East, south, west, and north are the tombs of the previous emperors of the Holy Mountain. The chances of them being there greater. We should split up and search." After pondering for a while, Su Yi nodded. Xiahong Lu chose the east, and Su Yi waited for Xiahong Lu to leave before he instantly gasped for breath. Rapidly circulating the art of driving the heavens, powerful metal attribute energy instantly rushed into his mind. Immediately, Su Yi felt an indescribable feeling of depression. His meridians were full, and his dantian was filled with golden light. "Kid, that strange heavy sword can help you accept the baptism, but I'm afraid it can't withstand the metal attribute energy here," the iron soulfish said gloomily. Su Yi did not have time to check the blood demon killing god sword. His face turned slightly pale, and he took out the heavy sword with a long sigh. Here, Su Yi's mysterious hand seals were activated, and his consciousness entered the blood demon killing god sword. To his surprise, he found that the ground within the sword was golden and overflowing with blood. It was clearly divided into 2 halves. The strange stone tower was also gone, and the scattered stones on the ground were emitting a golden halo. What's going on? Pinger, come out. Su Yi shouted. A beautiful figure flashed by like a breeze and rushed to Su Yi's side with a respectful look. Ping, turned back into the figure of the red-clothed Ping. Sui frowned and asked, "What's going on here?" The red-clothed Ping slowly bowed, and her slender eyebrows moved slightly. She was also very puzzled. When Pinger opened her eyes, it was already like this. Oh, Su Yi re-examined everything within the sword body. The ground was golden, the metal was tough and hard, just like the golden earth. The metal element Yuan Qi was thick, but the sky was still scarlet, as if it had just gone through a fierce battle. It was a ghastly sight. I know. Do you feel anything strange here? Su Yi asked the red-clothed Ping. Sword spirits are born with swords, and their adaptability is much better than ordinary weapon spirits. However, Ping still can't remember anything. Ping feels that the aura here is more stable than before, and Ping is not as anxious as before. Su Yi nodded. He guessed that it had something to do with the chi of Saint Monarch. The blood demon killing God sword could actually attract the chi of Saint Monarch, and his heart was filled with doubts. After withdrawing from the sword, Su Yi carried the heavy sword on his body and immediately felt a surge of metal attribute energy flowing into his dantian. The blood demon killing God sword can absorb metal attribute energy. Su Yi, Chi Fei Hong exclaimed. His eyes trembled, and the energy of heaven and earth flowing in his meridians was no longer blocked. Su Yi, who had the same feeling, nodded his head in delight. With the blood demon killing God sword, not only was his metal-type Yuan Qi no longer surging, his spiritual awareness of his surroundings had also reached a level where he could sense even the slightest movement of grass. He could faintly feel 4 streams of metal attribute energy flowing in the air. He opened his eyes, and a bright light shot out. I know where Ruashi is. With a low groan, he sprinted. With a light tap of his feet, the heavy sword was swung like a thin cicada's wing, and like a stream of light, he flew towards the south, which was not far from Xiahong House. Chapter 2000. The vast and boundless sky was filled with a sharp golden color. Auspicious clouds were surging, and the strong elemental energy in the air was like a ferocious beast that wanted to devour all the living beings in it. Ripples of space were torn apart one after another, rolling out in a mighty manner, enveloping the distant mountains and ridges. In the midst of the undulating green, the golden peaks and valleys were endless. The dense golden ripples were faintly discernible, and the imposing manner was magnificent. Looking from afar, it was like a monstrous giant beast was hibernating. Among the layers of mountains, Su Yi carried the blood demon killing God sword on his shoulder and moved rapidly. As he passed through the mountain peaks, the mountain shape gradually became soft. The metal elemental energy in the air also became extremely soft and slippery under the special effect of the blood demon killing God sword. It was like congealed fat, allowing Su Yi to gradually adapt. Gradually, Su Yi's speed became faster and faster. The surprise in his heart towards the blood demon killing God sword grew deeper and deeper. A question emerged in his heart. What is the origin of the blood demon killing God sword? But Su Yi was clear that it must be inextricably linked to the sacred mountain. Whoosh! The elemental energy whirlpools around his body were all opened, and the surging elemental energy was like a great river rushing to the sky. Flames flashed as Su Yi rode the wind. Once again, through the erratic mountain mist, he vaguely saw a majestic building towering majestically with a magnificent aura. Golden light glittered, and the simple outer wall was mottled. The thousands of ravines of the building were exposed under the dazzling golden light. It was like a dignified old man in his twilight years, and also like a hazy giant beast that was about to fall asleep. Billowing smoke and golden flames were constantly spurting out from its nose. This building should be the Holy Emperor's tomb mentioned by the Xiahong House. The sacred martial hall outside enshrined the memorial tablets of the holy emperors of various generations. However, there were very few holy emperors who could be buried in the Qianyuan Golden Sky Array. Therefore, it was obvious how huge the energy inside the tomb was. Carrying the huge, heavy sword on his shoulder, Su Yi stood on a high ground like a nimble monkey climbing. Spreading out his spiritual sense, Su Yi could feel the aura of the Snow Red House through the blood demon killing god sword, and there was an extremely profound and huge aura in the depths of the building. Lu Ruashi's aura was also present, but it lacked Yuqi Changfeng's Yuanqi aura. This fellow disappeared the moment he came in. Could it be that he wants to be the aureole behind us? Su Yi looked around with his eyes closed. His soul pressure surged out endlessly, covering the entire space. After a long while, he still couldn't find any trace of Yuqi Changfeng. With a shake of his long sleeves, he withdrew his Yuan Qi and placed the blood demon slaying god sword in front of him. He wrinkled his nose and his eyes flickered. Go in. Ruashi is more important. Su Yi made up his mind. Since he had found Lu Ruashi, he would bring her away. As long as Lu Ruashi agreed, Su Yi would not be afraid, even if the Xiehong house and the Lord tried to stop him. However, if Yuqi Changfeng was plotting something, it would be best to bring Lu Ruashi out of the Qianyuan Golden Sky Formation first. Suddenly, Su Yi's face darkened. He waved the blood demon killing god sword and faced the terrifying metal energy in the air. With a sharp sound of breaking wind, he turned into an afterimage and suddenly rushed to the entrance of the tomb. Boom! The door of the tomb suddenly opened. Su Yi stood at the entrance. He knew that the Snow Red House had entered, and his heart tightened. Then he rushed in. After entering, the dim light filled with dense space ripples, and a monstrous energy swept across. Looking at the interior of the tomb, Su Yi saw that the huge stone walls were mottled with cracks. Faint golden runes lingered around. Su Yi knew in his heart that the interior must be extraordinary. The vast golden attribute enveloped half of Su Yi's body like a golden net. At the same time, it was still expanding. This is the tomb of the Sage Emperor. Other than the aura left behind by the Sage Emperor, there must be many treasures and elixirs. Su Yi, don't waste the opportunity. Qi Feihong's eyes trembled with greed. Su Yi nodded. The sacred mountain had a blood feud with him. It would not be too much to bring Lu Ruashi back and get some interest. While thinking of this, Su Yi could not help but speed up. With a swing of his sword, he pushed aside the origin Qi storm in front of him and flew into the depths of the tomb. Boom! Hearing a thunderous explosion in the distance, Su Yi could tell that it was at the center of the tomb. Snow Red House, why are you the only one here? Where's the great saint? An old but deep voice came from the center of the tomb. It was the voice of a sacred sage. Su Yi spread out his soul spirit and held the blood devil-killing god sword in his hand. He raised his eyebrows. It was just as he had thought. Xiehong House had already entered, but there was no trace of Yuqi Changfeng. He opened his ears and listened carefully. I don't see the great saint. According to the rules, I should be the winner of the Sacred Mountain Tournament, right? The Snow Red House's voice was cold. Even if you win, I will not marry you. A cold female voice was heard. Before Xiehong House could say anything, they were scolded by the Lord. Ruashi, you are too presumptuous. Have you forgotten your identity? The sacred sage reprimanded her. It was rare to see him reprimand her. Me? Lu Ruashi, dressed in red, stood under the golden light wall. She looked sad, but when she looked at the Snow Red House, her eyes were still cold. The Lord turned around and looked at Lu Ruashi. His eyes were filled with emotions as he said, according to the rules of the grand competition, the person who obtains the Holy King Emperor sword will be crowned as the new Holy Emperor. Now that the Holy Emperor sword has disappeared, you and the Great Saint will fight in the tomb of the deceased Emperor. Since the Great Saint is not here, how can there be an outcome? The Snow Red House's eyes were as deep as the abyss. He was originally a proud person, but Lu Ruashi's firm attitude made him a little stubborn. His eyes shone like stars. Ninth Saintess, if you are waiting for Su-yi, even if he is here, he will have to go through me first. If you want to leave the sacred sage's position, how will the sacred mountain's reputation be? Hearing this, Lu Ruashi's voice suddenly rose. Her snow-white face trembled, and the pearl curtain in front of her forehead swayed. She took a step forward and said, "What? Su-yi is here?" Lu Ruashi's voice began to tremble as she spoke. The sacred sage was shocked. This was the sacred ground of the sacred mountain. If someone who was not from the sacred mountain had entered, how could he not know? Oomph. The snow-red house, who did not want to speak, looked at him with a sharp gaze. Da-da-da. Sounds of footsteps could be heard. Lu Ruashi and the sacred sage's eyes flickered. In a daze, they saw a young man with a huge sword flying towards them. His green robe was fluttering in the wind, and his eyebrows were raised. Who else could it be but Su-yi? This metal element aura is not from Yuchi. The sacred sage saw Su-yi's anger boiling. His eyes were cold, and he was flying towards him at an extremely fast speed. Chapter 2001. Su-yi. Lu Ruashi couldn't hold it in any longer. Her lips trembled, and her eyes were misty. She looked around and ran towards Su-yi. She opened her arms and used all her strength to run toward the high-spirited young man. She was so fierce and hot that it moved one's heart. Only when she hugged the hot body did Lu Ruashi truly feel at ease. Her eyes darkened, and her voice twitched. Su-yi, I thought I wouldn't be able to wait for you. Before she finished speaking, sparkling and translucent tears rolled down her face, sparkling and sparkling. Her snow-white neck was even redder because of her emotions. She lowered her head and leaned on Su-yi's shoulder, crying softly. Her soul-stirring sobs softened Su-yi's heart. His gaze changed from anger to tenderness. He placed his warm hand on Lu Ruashi's neatly combed hair and comforted her in a low voice. Aren't I here now? I'll be sad if you cry too. Lu Ruashi's translucent white face sank into Su-yi's broad shoulder. Her eyes trembled, and she bit her teeth as she spoke in a trembling voice. It's been 4 months. It's been 4 whole months. I thought you wouldn't come back anymore. Everyone told me not to wait any longer, but I just couldn't accept it. I didn't believe it. You promised me that you would come to the sacred mountain to marry me. I waited until the sun set and the moon rose. I waited until the tired birds returned to their nests. A series of soft confessions were the truest thoughts in Lu Ruashi's heart. Her faint voice made Su-yi hug her even tighter. Everything is fine. Didn't I come to bring you home? Sister Xiaoman, who you like, is also here. Let's go home together, okay? Su-yi's gentle eyes were filled with tenderness. He looked at her glowing cheeks and gently pressed his lips against hers. Lu Ruashi immediately let out a soft sound and nodded. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to Barbarian City in Yuqian Palace. 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. I want to see every piece of land with you. We'll never be apart again. Lu Ruashi's lively eyes were filled with happiness as she looked at him in a daze. Su-yi used his index finger to scratch Lu Ruashi's nose as a faint smile appeared on his face. That will take a lot of time. You got me trapped. Xiang House and the holy venerables, who were standing at the side, looked terrible. Xiang House, who had always been arrogant, had never seen such a scene. Her face was ferocious, and she looked away. The holy senior's white but slightly wrinkled face showed an indescribable complex feeling. He said with a deep voice, Su-yi, this is the Holy Mountain's grand competition. Is it appropriate for you to do this in the Holy Land? After the cold intent was thrown, Lu Ruashi and Su-yi instantly separated. There was some embarrassment on Lu Ruashi's blushing face. Su-yi pushed Lu Ruashi behind him. So you guys are here too. I'm sorry for letting you guys see our PDA. The holy senior was stunned for a moment, and it was difficult for him to come back to his senses. Then, a cold light surged in his dark eyes as he said with a clear voice, Su-yi, you are supposed to be the strongest person in the Holy Mountain. Everything is predestined. Even Ruashi's entry into the holy mountain is predestined. It can't be changed. If you insist on taking her away, the holy mountain will not agree, and neither will I. Their eyes met, and Su Yi's eyes seemed to have been electrocuted. There was fire in his eyes. No wonder Duanmu Xiongtu made such an agreement with him. It turned out that after entering, no matter whether Lu Ruashi agreed or not, as long as the holy senior didn't agree, no one could leave easily. Ha ha! With a wild laugh, Su Yi's gaze suddenly trembled without leaving a trace. A bone-chilling coldness filled the air, gradually turning from anger to murderous intent. Old man, you still have the same nose as the holy mountain. Old man Duanmu's words are like farts. Fine. Today, I'll kill Yuchi Changfeng and Xiahong House. Without the holy emperor, I'll see what use you have for the holy senior. Zung zung. The sword light fluctuated, and the aura surged. The blood-red sword mark drew a demonic arc in the air. Su Yi's eyes were fierce, and his aura surged like dragon scales. The sword stabbed into the ground, and spiderweb-like cracks quickly spread out on the ground of the tomb. Su Yi's killing intent sword. He froze the void and sized up the holy senior and Xiahong House. This sword, the holy senior was shocked. His cold gaze was replaced by shock. A deafening roar resounded in the air. An invisible aura storm gradually blew. Xiahong House, you want to compete with me? Come to me then. Su Yi's fury surged as he glanced at Xiahong Pavilion. Xiahong House's eyes were cold and resolute. She raised her charming eyebrows and said in a low voice, "Let's continue with the previous battle. It has nothing to do with the Holy Mountain Tournament or Lu Ruashi. I don't care if it has anything to do with you or not. Lu Ruashi is my wife. You better remember this well. If I want to take her away, no one has the right to say anything." After images flew, and the blood demon killing God sword in Su Yi's hand became sharp and bloody again. The soul pressure that filled the sky crashed towards Xiahong House. First level of origin ancestor realm. At the same time, the holy senior was sizing up Su Yi's aura. His eyes were trembling. In such a short period of time, Su Yi's cultivation had skyrocketed again. Could he have had a fortuitous encounter after the Tianfeng ranking tournament? In a split second, the metal attribute True Qi in Xiahong House's surroundings surged in midair, triggering the metal attribute energy that covered the sky and earth. The golden light was resplendent. A Sage King domain was set up in the surroundings, and the golden light was extremely powerful. Xiahong House's True Qi aura instantly rose from the 8th level of the Origin Emperor realm to the 1st level of the Origin Ancestor realm. Good lad, you are really something. Su Yi's sea of qi in his dantian began to swell. The sword light was intense, and blood qi surged out of Su Yi's pores. The sword light slashed violently, and like a tornado, it smashed on his Xiahong House's body. Bang! In an instant, countless strands of energy gathered above the ancient tomb, and a sonic boom was heard. Both Xiahong House and Su Yi were thrown back a few steps at the same time. Even though Su Yi didn't use his 3rd level of Origin Ancestor Realm strength, and his first move was just to test Xiahong House's strength, it was still enough to surprise Su Yi. He knew that Xiahong House had also conserved their strength. The metal attribute was tough, and its killing aura was extremely strong. It was destructive and could be used for both offense and defense. In addition to the Sage King domain's secret technique that could temporarily increase one's cultivation, Xiahong House's strength could be said to have surpassed Yuchi Changfeng's. If it was the real Sacred Mountain Tournament, Xiahong House would definitely win. Su Yi muttered to himself. He slid a distance on the ground and stood up with a grave expression. This lad's chi of Saint Ruler is a little different. Could he have comprehended the chi of Saint Ruler on his own? From the feedback of the blood demon killing God sword, Xiahong House's chi of Saint Ruler was far more vigorous than Yuchi Changfeng's. In terms of power, it was like the difference between an ocean and a river. Xiahong House was equally surprised. Under the terrifying pressure, Xiahong House had thought that he would definitely win. Even after his strength had skyrocketed, he still couldn't gain any advantage over Su-yi. It could be said that he couldn't figure out how strong Su-yi was. Su-yi, are you okay? Lu Ruashi looked worried as she whispered anxiously behind Su-yi. When the sacred venerate saw the two young martial artists, he was already amazed. Regret rose in his heart again, and he looked shocked. Chapter 2002. This kid is amazing. He is actually able to fight to a draw with Hong Lu here. The Lord's cold eyes were filled with astonishment. In a flash, he appeared beside Xie Hong Lu with concern. Again, Su, he shouted. The blood demon killing god, sword in his hand, glowed with a bloody light. It was as if the energy crystal was outlined by golden lines. It was domineering and luxurious. As soon as he finished speaking, Su-yi's blood demon killing god sword buzzed. In an instant, two rays of golden light shot out from his eyes. The cold gaze made the Lord and Xie Hong Lu break out in a cold sweat. Second level, Origin Ancestor Realm. Third level, Origin Ancestor Realm. Su-yi's battle intense surged. Faced with such a strong environment, the metal element energy was like a boundary. If not for the blood demon killing god sword in his hand, Su-yi would have been at a disadvantage just now. Good kid. The same trick again. Xie Hong Lu stood up from behind, the corner of her mouth twitching into a smile. Suddenly, a surge of fighting spirit burst out from his body. The metal attribute energy once again exploded. A kind of violent metal attribute energy rose from his eyes. The extremely pure metal attribute energy increased by a lot in an instant. The Lord could not help but widen his eyes as he felt the aura from Xie Hong Lu. He was secretly shocked, and his pearl-like pupils moved quickly. The air was filled with danger as the fire attribute and metal attribute collided. One was a first-level Origin Ancestor Realm, while the other was a third-level Origin Ancestor Realm. At the same time, energy ripples rocked violently within the ancient tomb. At that moment, the Lord and Lu Ruashi were already shocked. Could it be that one of these two amazing young martial artists was going to die here? Stop fighting. Su-yi. Lu Ruashi was as thin as a mosquito. Her hands clutched the corner of her clothes tightly. Her beautiful eyes were lively and tears were about to seep out. Su-yi, can you show me the sword in your hand? The Lord shook his robe. His gentle face was extremely cold as he stared at the strange sword in Su-yi's hand. The long sword rumbled, and the sword light was piercingly cold. The scarlet light was like the eyes of a devil under the golden divine radiance, and it was crouching in the abyss, waiting to strike. Su-yi lightly moved his wrist and rested the heavy sword on his shoulder. The corners of his mouth curled up as he said, "For a man, the sword is his companion, but at the same time, it is an indispensable confidant. Lu Ruashi, you want to snatch my wife, but you also want to snatch my sword?" Su-yi snorted, and the Lord's face turned red. However, he was still stubborn and said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to let you go. Su-yi, this sword is quite extraordinary. I just want to inspect it. I don't want to take it for myself. Don't misunderstand." After he finished speaking, he glanced at Xie Hong House, hoping that Xie Hong House would help him. As soon as he said that, Xie Hong House and Lu Ruashi also stared at the blood-red heavy sword in Su-yi's hand. His aura was vigorous, mighty, and domineering. In comparison, Xie Hong House's sword, Hidden Snow, only had a kind of arrogance, but it lacked a real ruthlessness and strength. Su-yi glanced at the long sword. The blood-red light was like blood. At this moment, he was even more certain that this sword was closely related to the sacred mountain. Immediately, he tightened his grip on the sword and said in a low voice, "Sure, if you want to see it, exchange it with Xie Hong House's life. Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Xie Hong House also shouted. She was not at a disadvantage. She raised the long sword in her hand, and a long string of snow-white sword marks appeared. Bang! Su-yi's right hand shook, and he raised his eyebrows. He waved the blood demon killing god sword in front of him, and the space in front of him suddenly distorted into a depression. Clang! As the sound of metal clashing rang out, Su Yi's eyes lit up with absolute confidence. With the absolute strength of a level 3 origin ancestor and the cultivation in the space-time mezzanine, Su Yi believed that he could definitely turn Xiahong House into a pile of mud. His strength was like a mountain, and the tip of his sword was like a tidal wave. The immense power in his every move was enough to destroy the space. Su Yi shouted, and his fighting spirit surged like a tidal wave. The light around Su Yi gathered into a vortex that was visible to the naked eye. The powerful force threw Lu Ruoxi to the side. "Old woman, catch Lu Ruoxi!" Xiahong House shouted angrily. Xiahong House's eyes lit up. She immediately deployed her Sage Monarch Realm and Sage Monarch Protective Aura at the same time. An ancient, desolate, majestic aura was awakened. Hidden snow streaked across the sky like a mad lion, and a white, golden light was hidden within it. Great! The Sage Monarch aura is indeed extraordinary, Su Yi praised. Within the Sage Monarch aura, the disciples of the Sacred Mountain could not only improve their cultivation, but also have an absolute defense. Such a martial technique could be said to be invincible. The two of them rose into the sky at the same time. Above them, the fiery golden light shone brightly and covered the sky, stirring up a large area of the god's tomb. Even if you're already a level 3 origin ancestor, this is the Sacred Mountain. You don't have the Sage Monarch aura, and you don't have the metal elemental Yuan Qi. Are you sure you want to fight? Xiahong House's hidden snow spread out cold light, shaking the surrounding space. How would you know if you haven't fought? I've been to the Sacred Mountain, I've been baptized in the Sacred Martial Baptism, and I've even come to the Great Array. I've done everything that you can't imagine. How do you know that you can definitely beat me? Su Yi's sword net densely covered in front of him. Under the amazing power, the space was suppressed to the point that it shook inch by inch. What? The Lord and Lu Ruoxi were shocked at the same time. Everyone in the Sacred Mountain knew how terrifying the innate Sage Monarch aura was in the Sacred Martial Hall. Those who were recognized by the innate Sage Monarch aura were the candidates of the Sacred Emperor. In this Sacred Martial Grand Competition, the three of them were recognized at the same time. This was something that was impossible in the Sacred Mountain for thousands of years. He should have entered the Sacred Mountain. The Sacred Mountain has lost a great opportunity. The Lord's eyes were filled with regret and pain. At the same time, he was even more surprised by the amazing young man in front of him. A small barbarian city had not only produced the ninth Saintess, but also such a heaven-defying young man. In the void, faint fire marks began to appear on Su Yi's skin, one after another, like a ferocious giant beast. Su Yi's eyes were fierce, like a god. Su Yi. Lu Ruoxi's red lips pursed and nodded slightly. That little rascal did it, and became the most perfect man in her heart. Bang! Suddenly, above the sky, an astonishing Yuan Qi energy light wave whizzed out. Streaks of golden light, like a giant dragon, circled around the sky, creating a sonorous roar that was deafening to the ears. Rumble! The blade-like wind sighs were constantly hanging on the pillars of the tomb, leaving shallow white marks. The Lord tapped his feet lightly and brought Lu Ruoxi to the depths of the tomb, leaving the battlefield. As soon as he landed, he saw that in the void, there were continuous sonic booms. Figures flashed in and out of the boundless light, dazzling the eyes and making people tremble in fear. In just a few breaths, Su Yi and Xiahong House had already fought for dozens of rounds. The Lord's eyes were filled with shock as he whispered in a low voice. Too strong. Both of them are great opportunities for the Sacred Mountain. None of them should suffer any losses. If we miss one of them, we will regret it for life. Chapter 2003. Lu Ruoxi, who was standing at the side, could not take her eyes off the battle. She was extremely anxious. Compared to Yuqi Changfeng, Xiahong Lu was senior sister Li Ling's sweetheart. Although he was cold, he was very upright and had helped her a lot. If she could choose, Lu Ruashi hoped that Xiahong Lu and Su Yi could coexist peacefully. She suddenly felt a sense of helplessness. What the Lord and Lu Ruashi did not realize was that Su Yi and Xiahong Lu would exchange glances every time they fought. When the last move was made, Su Yi's lips curled into a mysterious smile. "Are you ready?" Su Yi shouted anxiously amidst the wind and thunder. Xiahong Lu waved her hidden snow sword. The white light was like a waterfall. When a ribbon-like light fell on her forehead, Xiahong Lu's eyes flashed coldly. When she looked at Su Yi, both of them looked at each other and nodded slightly. Suddenly, the two monstrous storms in the sky merged together. Bang! Xiahong Lu and Su Yi's eyes narrowed at the same time. They turned around in the air, and sword light appeared out of nowhere. Rumble! In the void, Xiahong Lu's hidden snow sword appeared. Suddenly, a huge Sage King Vajra shadow shot out from the tip of the sword. It was like a ferocious beast roaring fiercely. With a majestic force, it pierced through the space. At the same time, Su Yi, who was next to her, stepped lightly. His eyes were cold. He took advantage of the momentum and swept out a monstrous sword force. With a shake of his sword, the blood demon killing god sword pierced through the sky, bringing along a long trail of flames. A terrifying airwave that was visible to the naked eye spread out. Ultimate illusion skyblade. Hit! Su Yi shouted. The airwave instantly collapsed inch by inch. A large patch of flames pressed down from the sky and caught up with Xiahong Lu's Sage King Vajra shadow. Suddenly, the temperature of the entire Holy Land rose rapidly. The airwave was also burned into white smoke. The strange pressure in the air was instantly ignited. Bang! The Lord shouted. When he saw the sudden change in his two sons, his expression changed rapidly. He set up a Sage King realm to protect Lu Ruashi behind him. Looking at the sky, the two dragon-like attacks merged into one. The whole world seemed to be surging with waves. The Sage King Vajra shadow was as fast as lightning. Its Sage King's hand spread out endless flames and blasted towards the stone pillar at the southwest corner. At the same time, a huge space vortex. Sage King Vajra shadow. The majestic force instantly exploded in the air. A huge amount of energy exploded explosively in the sky, and the Sage King Vajra shadow. With Sage Xiahong Lu, the ferocious shock wave blasted Su Yi and Xiahong Lu in the direction of the Holy Venerate. The two figures flew back. The spatial ripples along the way were shattered. Su Yi and Xiahong Lu's eyes immediately turned pale. Su Yi's eyes turned red, and his flesh tensed up. Xiahong Lu, who was staggering on the ground, even spat out blood. Ha ha ha! The Lord and Lu Ruashi checked on their injuries. At the same time, a figure soared into the sky. Evil laughter filled the air. The person waved a long mace in his hand gently. The air pressure instantly collapsed. Strong light spurted out, and energy surged around his body. I didn't expect that the two of you would still discover me, even though I hid so well. What's there to be afraid of when two dying birds are struggling? Bang! Bang! Sonic booms resounded in the air, but they still couldn't cover the evil laughter. In the golden flames, a tall and thin figure flew over from afar. Yuchi Changfeng, the Lord shouted. It's you. Lu Ruashi covered her mouth and exclaimed. The Lord and Lu Ruashi frowned at the same time. They had a weird expression on their faces. It turned out that Su Yi and Xiahong House had already discovered Yuchi Changfeng's existence. The fight just now was just a show for Yuchi Changfeng. The two of them had a complicated look on their faces. The Lord's eyes flickered. Yuchi Changfeng was just a 9th-level origin ancestor. He didn't even realize that he had entered the Holy Land. However, the two of them were able to set up a plan in advance. He couldn't help but be surprised. However, what surprised the Lord even more was that Yuchi Changfeng, who had withstood Su Yi and Xiahong Lu's heavy attacks, was not injured at all. Instead, his aura became deeper and deeper. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. The Lord murmured in disbelief. Xiahong Lu spat out a mouthful of blood again. His sculpted face twitched slightly. His eyes were filled with malevolence. The Lord stuffed a pill into Xiahong Lu's hand. The converted vitality flowed into Xiahong Lu's body like a warm current. Sui also showed a gentle smile under Lu Ruashi's care. The scene made Yuchi Chongfeng's killing intent sore. He smiled insincerely and stroked the golden mace in his hand. The jade thumb ring on his thumb was placed on the handle, revealing a ray of golden light. Yuchi Chongfeng, why didn't you come to the Holy Land? Why are you sneaking around after coming here? What are you trying to do? The Lord shouted loudly. His hands didn't stop healing Xiahong Lu. Yuchi Chongfeng's lips twitched. His mocking smile was like a knife in his back. He said, "What can I do even if I don't come? I'm here to see your ancestors. Do men and women get along well? How dare you? Today is the grand competition of Saint Mountain. How dare you fool around like this?" The Lord raised his eyes. A majestic aura shot out. When it rushed in front of Yuchi Chongfeng raised his golden mace. Clang! Yuchi Chongfeng's face darkened. His golden mace turned into a powerful wave of light and pierced through the sky. The light and the mace collided with each other. The terrifying collision caused the sky and the earth to tremble. In an instant, there was an earth-shattering muffled sound. The ripples in the space quickly spread out with traces of cracks, like a spider web. Do you think you can still touch me? Old woman, today it's time to settle the score with you. The impact spread in all directions. The powerful attack forced the four to take a few steps back. Yuchi Chongfeng stomped his right foot and stopped himself. His long and narrow eyes were filled with murderous intent. Yuchi Chongfeng's golden mace was like a wild dragon. His aura suddenly burst out. Behind him, the Dharma form was solemn. The sacred golden light illuminated the heaven and earth. It was as if the Saint Emperor had come to the world in person. This power is so strong. Lu Ruashi's eyes narrowed. The terrifying aura made it difficult for her to breathe, and her soul trembled. Bang! At the same time, Su-Yi gently held Lu Ruashi's hands. The Origin Supreme art burst out again. The golden dragon behind him spread out. The dragon's roar resounded in the sky like thunder. It was shocking to the soul. When the two forces confronted each other, Su-Yi channeled his fire element Yuan Qi to the extreme. The Lord put away his anger and said in a low voice, "Yuchi, are you trying to use this power that doesn't belong to you to win the grand competition of Saint Mountain? Yuan, filial son." Ha! The terrifying power behind him quickly entrenched the heaven and earth. Under the overlapping shadows, Yuchi Chongfeng's face became more and more ferocious. The golden mace directly pierced into the ground as he shouted loudly. Chapter 2004. Even if I use my own strength, will you really acknowledge me? Will you regard me as the Saint Emperor? Old woman, you are such a hypocrite. Do you know what you're talking about? The holy sage was shocked. She gritted her teeth and trembled with anger. Dong! Yuchi Chongfeng's face became even more ferocious, and his aura became inexplicably ferocious as he shouted, "Let's go." Am I wrong? Old woman, do you still recognize this golden mace? Yuchi Chongfeng's long and narrow eyes were filled with tenderness. He lovingly stroked the handle of the golden mace. The grooves on the mace were crisscrossed, and the prominent patterns were flickering with golden light. He turned the handle of the mace and knocked it gently. A faint metallic sound reverberated in the air. A strong soul pressure seeped into the minds of Lu Ruashi and the others through the sound waves. Clang! Lu Ruashi stepped back unconsciously. Her face was pale, and her chest was heaving up and down. Su-Yi hurriedly used his qi to cover Lu Ruashi. His cold eyes fell on Yuchi Chongfeng. Is indeed a good item. Another peerless saint artifact. Qi Feihong gulped. His eyes sparkled as he gazed at the gold mace in Yuchi Chongfeng's hand in the mysterious space. Who doesn't know about the golden mace that the late Saint Emperor gave to the great saint of the Saint Mountain? You are the late Saint Emperor's favorite disciple. When you were 8 years old, you defeated your peers in the Saint Mountain. It was your own ability. The holy sage nodded. Her eyes dimmed. Suddenly, she recalled countless past events and sighed. Yuchi Changfeng's slender fingers held the golden mace. His face also showed pain. He said in a low voice, "The late emperor passed away. After you came back more than 20 years ago, you never asked me, the late emperor's disciple. You didn't even tell anyone about the late emperor's death. How do you expect us to feel? Now that the grand competition of the Saint Mountain is happening, you are interfering. Old woman, you are meddling too much." Yuchi Changfeng's voice became louder and louder. Hearing this, the Lord was silent for a while. Then, he said with a hoarse voice, "It's not that I don't care, but there are other secrets. Back then, the holy mountain was in turmoil, and I didn't dare to make a decision without clear evidence. Furthermore, he could not use the entire sacred mountain as a stake. But you, Yuchi, I didn't care about you all these years because you were the late emperor's disciple. I believe in the late emperor's judgment." Then, the Lord started to breathe heavily. His eyes were filled with disappointment and hatred. He said, "But you have disappointed me so much. Do you think I don't know what you've done in the past few years? How can I be at ease handing the sacred mountain to you?" Hongluo's temperament is high, and he can't stand it anymore. That's why he wants to participate in this holy mountain tournament. As soon as his voice fell, Yuchi Changfeng's aura skyrocketed once again. A strange and powerful force shot out from the thumb ring, causing people's souls to tremble. His eyes were cold and sharp as he spoke with incomparable resentment. "Enough. Xiahong House is just a bastard you picked up from the outside. What about me? I'm the late emperor's disciple. Have you ever looked me in the eye? And this Su Yi, even if he has a blood feud with the sacred mountain, you still protect him in every way possible. Why? They are all treasures, but I'm not a human in front of you, am I?" Maniacal laughter, anger, rage, and a sinister smile. All of his emotions were reflected on Yuchi Changfeng's face. He squinted his eyes and shook his head as he looked at Yuchi Changfeng. The thumb ring on his finger seemed familiar. That thumb ring. I've seen it before. Yes, I've seen it before. Xiang House also stared at Yuchi Changfeng's finger. Her face was pale, and her aura was slightly chaotic. She tilted her head and said to Su Yi, "You've seen it before?" After being reminded, Su Yi carefully looked at the jade thumb ring in Yuchi Changfeng's hand that was emitting a strange golden light. The mysterious runes on the ring were revealed, revealing a mysterious luster. Thoughts flashed through Su Yi's mind. He had seen this thumb ring during the Tianfeng ranking tournament. That thumb ring is extraordinary. It should be able to establish a connection with the elemental qi here for its own use. But it doesn't seem to be just that. Qi Feihong's eyes lit up. With his many years of collecting treasures, he could see the source of Yuchi Changfeng's mysterious power at a glance. "Ha ha ha. Yuchi Changfeng, you've been planning this for a long time. Your real goal is to lure us all in." Su Yi gently patted Lu Ruashi's soft shoulder and gently pulled her back. He walked forward alone and raised his eyebrows. His aura was extraordinary, and his body was faintly shrouded in a desolate and ancient aura. Yuchi Changfeng's gaze changed slightly. "That's right. You're a change. I didn't expect you to come to the Saint Mountain to die for a woman. I didn't expect you to pass the Saint Mountain's baptism either. Tell me, what method did you use to pass the baptism? Tell me, and I'll consider leaving your corpse intact." Yuchi Changfeng said coldly. He pulled out the golden mace in his hand, which was wrapped in golden light and dust. Immediately, everyone's gaze became nervous. Su Yi, however, did not panic and wrinkled his nose. "I won't tell you what method I used, but I know that you relied on this thumb ring of yours, right?" Suddenly, the corner of Yuchi Changfeng's eyes twitched. His finger unconsciously touched the thumb ring. Su Yi was even more certain. He laughed softly and said, "You used a power that doesn't belong to you. You didn't gain the recognition of the innate Saint King Qi. You fake. Get out." "Bullshit. I'm an innate Saint Monarch." Yuchi Changfeng's anger reached its peak in an instant. The shadow behind him suddenly expanded, and the jade thumb ring released a dazzling light. The shadow of the Saint King covered the sky and the earth with a vigorous aura. His two long eyes suddenly opened, and he kept waving the wind, capturing Golden Swordbreaker. His eyes were incomparably sharp. "You're fake. You're the fake one. I'll kill you." Yuchi Changfeng's anger turned into humiliation. He launched a series of attacks that could topple mountains and overturn seas. His murderous aura surged like a flood. In the blink of an eye, the Saint Monarch, Xiahong House, and Lu Ruoshi retreated quickly. Su Yi's earth, wood, water, and fire divine rays shot out from his body. The blood demon killing god sword in his hand was dancing in the air. At the same time, the divine bird soared into the sky. "Pung, pung, pung. You think you can kill me? What a joke." Su Yi sneered coldly. As soon as Su Yi finished his words, the fire elemental energy gathered in the air and clashed with Yuchi Changfeng. The three behind him changed their expressions at the same time. Dang, dang, dang. Su Yi and Yuchi Changfeng retreated at the same time. Su Yi only managed to stop himself after a dozen steps. The monster god battle armor on his body glowed brightly. Su Yi sneered and quietly cast the Origin Supreme Art to suppress his aura. When he looked at Yuchi Changfeng again, he slid on the ground for a distance. The dazzling golden light left a deep trench on the ground. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.